Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. Please feel free to write us on chat. Where are you visiting us from? Where are you from? Your name. We will start this amazing event shortly, and we wish to know where are you from? Where are you visiting us from? So welcome, everyone. We have many people coming in as we speak. Welcome. Thank you so much for being with us today. So let's see who's here. So Roma, Lisbon, okay, Indonesia, okay, Bulgaria, welcome, Faro, Croatia, Warsaw, Los Angeles, Georgia, South Africa. That's amazing. What a great audience we have here today. Okay, just give 1 more minute to give time for everyone to join us. Okay. That's a total international event for sure. People from all over the place. Welcome, everyone. I hope you are feeling excited today with the event we have prepared for you. There's a lot of content to share with you this afternoon. I hope you enjoy it. Okay, so in order not to delay our agenda, because it's a full day, we have 10 speakers for you today, 10 in this afternoon. We will start our event with some introduction, so we give time for everyone else to join us. So I will see you in a couple of seconds. So. Sorry. Okay, so welcome everyone. You just saw the presentation video from Experience Agile Week. For the ones that don't know this conference yet, we will be speaking about the conference through the afternoon. But this is a 5 days event. You can join us registering in experienceagile.org, and this conference, this event supports our session from today, bringing some of the speakers that will be involved during the 25th and 29th of September. So in case you don't know this conference, please go to experienceagile.org and get to know more about the agenda of these 5 amazing days. If you are looking for an opportunity to know more about Agile, to know more about what is happening in all the world, in the main companies, go to experienceagile.org. And it's with pleasure that we are here today supporting this event with Women in Tech. Claudia, I give you the word. Go for it.
Good afternoon, good morning, good night, wherever you are in the world. So Women in Tech and Women in Tech Portugal has the pleasure to create this Agile Academy together with Agile Thinkers Academy and the Experience Agile Week. So it's thankful to them that we have this in place. And we have great speakers today, so expect to have a warm welcome from Hugo Lourenço, that is the founder of these 2 companies, and Ayumi Aoki, that is the founder and the president of Women in Tech. And then we have a great opening of Steve Davening. Hope to see Maria Matarelli talking about personality agility. We have Fabiola with the power of female leaders, Katrina with Agile marketing, Karen Mendoza, how can Scrum guide us? Sometimes we think about these kind of questions. Ardita and Christine will talk about what do allies do and how can men help? And Soraya will be ending this session with psychological safety that is really important in those days that we are living in. So we want to give you a sneak peek of what is actually this world of Agile, and to empower more women, to empower more allies to women, and to give to you our experience and to empower you to achieve more and your capabilities in leadership. So welcome all. Thank you for everyone that has contributed to this academy to put this in place and to make it happen. And now let's hear more words about Hugo, but don't forget to stay tuned until the end of this academy, because we have 2 tickets. We have a giveaway to attend the Experience Agile Week. It's a full week with a lot of content, a lot of speakers that I'm sure that you will love to join. So stay tuned. Hugo, thank you so much in the first place, and thank you for giving back and for welcoming the communities into your organization, and put yourself into as a servant leader of these communities, and give back your experience also, and your knowledge and your network. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks to you, Claudia, and also to Women in Tech. Hello everyone, my name is Hugo Lourenço. I am the founder of the Agile Thinkers and the Experience Agile Week. I'm very happy to be with you all today. When Women in Tech invited us to develop this event for the Women in Tech community, our only question was when and how you want to do it. These opportunities are a gift to all of us. And at the Agile Thinkers, the company that is organizing in partnership with the Women in Tech and the Experience Agile Week, we are committed to teach for the unknown and educating all professionals to be value creators. That's exactly what will happen here today. Educate and support the community by bringing a group of speakers and practitioners that have dedicated their lives studying, learning, and developing new lines of thoughts, frameworks, and other skills. This is only a small part of the greatness of what Agile is capable to do for organizations and the humans in them. Agile means foster different perspectives, innovation, customer-centric. Agile means working better for better outcomes. Agile means responding quick to a change and achieve greater things. Agile has no department. Agile works for marketing, HR, IT, sales, procurement, finance, leadership, product development, personal agility, organizational agility, hard or soft. Agile is a beautiful word to everyone because it represents the future of work in a digital society. Agile has no gender. Agile is for humans no matter what. No gender, no religions, no personal beliefs. Agile should make everything and everyone better. Agile means collaboration, knowledge sharing, transparency, visibility, leadership, getting all things together and for the better. Today, you'll see that Agile is everywhere. And all the companies that exist for decades need to embrace an Agile mindset in case they wish to continue to exist for more decades. I'd like to say thank you all speakers here with us today, friends for several years that joined the purpose of our academy. In this journey you can start today. Let us know how we can help and what we could be missing. Now I'd like to pass the word to the founder and CEO of the Women in Tech and Social Brain, Ayumi Aoki. Thank you so much and be agile.
Thank you so much, Hugo. Hi, everybody. I'm so happy to be here today. So I wanted to say thank you, Agile Thinkers and Experience Agile. Hugo, of course, Paula, and my dear Claudia, who is like my right hand, my left foot. She's a great, great pillar of Women in Tech, and I'm very proud to have her not only as my friend, but as the ambassador of Women in Tech in Portugal, and to have been putting this up, organizing this whole Women in Tech Agile Academy, that it's so important because obviously Agile is such relevant topics, right? And high level speakers, it's important for us today, especially in the world we are. So I wanted to thank you for bringing Women in Tech Agile as role models. Not only do they share their knowledge, but they're also inspiring to bringing women to inspire more women in the community. And I think it's important to have more women being involved in decision-making and in the innovation processes. And this is so much related with the Agile mindset, right? And all the practices. So thank you so much for this. It's important because diversity and inclusiveness are really essential in every single industry. The gender gap in tech is really preventing women from playing the full role in shaping the future of society. So helping girls and women, advance is not only something that is good for society, but it's also very good for the economy. So it's not something that's only ethical, but it's ethical and it's smart as well. Because when you empower a woman, you're empowering the whole communities and nations around. So once again, I want to thank you so much for giving back to the community, for the support you're giving Women in Tech. And to the audience, I wish you to have a lovely experience, really take the most of it. Raise your questions, ask your questions, try and network, get involved, engage, and I hope you're going to have a lovely day, and I hope to see you in our next event as well, in the next editions. So thank you so much and have a lovely time.
Thank you so much, Ayumi. Thank you so much for your kind words. Our next speaker I'm sure that many of you know his name, Steve Denny. He's a true leader of the Agile movement. Steve has worked for the World Bank in Washington, D.C. for several decades. And since he left the World Bank, he has been very busy. He already wrote 6 business books on Agile management and leadership, along with 1,000 articles for Forbes. He has also written a novel and a volume of poems. In case you want to know more about Steve Denny's work, please go to stevedenny.com. And so, Steve, thank you so much for being here today. It's a true honor for all of us. And we would like to hear what do you have to say to this community of women in tech? Thank you so much and welcome, Steve.
Well, thank you, Paula, and I'm delighted to be here with you. I was a little concerned when you invited me to give a talk because I said I don't have any firsthand experience of being a woman in tech. So I'm somewhat unqualified to talk on the subject, but you said, well, give us your best shot. So I've do the best I can. It's obvious that gender issues in the workplace have been a real issue for thousands of years. So although they've been getting better in the last 20 years and even 10 and even 5 years, I see steady progress. There are still a lot of issues. And nevertheless, we should also celebrate the progress and figure out how we can continue that so that it ceases to be an issue. And I thought the simplest way to explain what I do know is the fact that I know most about this subject through the experience of my daughter, who is age 34. She is single. She lives in Denmark and works for a consulting firm there. And I've been following her life for these 34 years, and I've learned quite a bit about how it feels to be a woman in the workplace. So it began when she was about age 2, when she had the toys that she liked were trucks and Lego blocks. And I thought, well, that's great. She's going to be an engineer. And then she met a girlfriend who introduced her to Barbies. And so for the next 3 or 4 years, our house was just a sea of Barbie dolls. I wondered whether that was going to last. Well, when she went to school, she actually enjoyed mathematics from a woman teacher who was very inspiring, as well as an English teacher who was very good. So she actually ended up with a fairly balanced sort of primary education. When she went to college, she went to Columbia University, and the issues there were very, very different from the school she'd been in, which had been an international school and was very open and encouraging empathy across the different nationalities and genders. But the Columbia was a really a segregated environment where most of the students were men, and most of the teachers were men, and but the issues were more racial in nature than gender. But it was the actual learning experience was fairly even-handed. She didn't suffer any handicaps for being a woman, was her perception. It was despite the rather strained relationship between the students, it was an even-handed environment. She then went to work for a startup in Washington, D.C., where she was the only one of 2 women in a fairly large startup. So this was more like a frat house. This was like even Animal House, and a lot of beer drinking, a lot of bad language. And it was a very difficult environment for her to make progress in because of that whole context. They were trying to implement Agile, but it was actually a semblance of Agile. And she told me about it, and that it wasn't adding any value. And I said, well, this is not the real Agile. These are just going through the procedures because they've been told to go through the procedures. That's not the real thing. And so she said, okay, Dad, if you say so. But she wasn't really convinced about that. later on, she worked for a Danish consulting firm in New York, and that's when she really experienced the kind of environment that is really agile. That was a very collaborative team environment where it was very gender neutral, very open to ideas coming from below, a lot of horizontal collaboration. They didn't call it agile, but in fact, they were implementing all of the spirit of agile. So that was a lesson. You don't have to be calling it agile to be actually agile. Her firm was then actually bought by an American consulting firm. This was a concern because she was feeling that this might introduce some of the negative culture that she'd seen in her previous work environments. But as it happened, she was assigned to work in Denmark, which was her dream location. She wanted to work in Denmark. And so she's been living in Denmark for the last couple of years. And here again, it's been a very collaborative environment, very open, very horizontal, and really quite an inspiring experience. So what I would say is that this is an environment where you are likely to find great workplaces, but you're also likely to find workplaces which are not so great. They might be called agile, but they might not be very agile. They might be called agile and be terrific, or they might be called something else. But what is important is to see these as opportunities. If you find yourself in a situation which you have a bad boss, and my daughter had one bad boss who happened to be a woman who was really top down in the worst kind of way. And if my daughter said turn left, she was told she should have turned right. And if she turned right, she was told she should have turned left. In other words, it was a lose-lose situation. So her goal was to get out of that assignment as quickly as possible and find a place where she didn't have such a bad boss. And she was able to do that by switching, in fact, to this Danish consulting firm where the environment was very difficult. So look for opportunities rather than setbacks. You will find setbacks unless you are very, very lucky. But find ways to find opportunities either in the position by forming alliances with others to change the environment, or if that's not possible, then go elsewhere. But above all, be authentic. Do not try to emulate man. Do not try to become like a man. Take the best of what it is to be a woman, but and use that as a way to add more value. The speakers before explained that Agile was really about people adding value to other people, and women are particularly well suited to perform that role. So congratulations for having this conference. I look forward to hearing the outcome of it and wish you all success throughout the day.
Thank you so much, Steve. Thank you for sharing your experience and your wisdom. Thank you so much. With the opening speech from Hugo, Ayumi, and Steve, we now will take place. So we will give place to our Agile Academy. The speakers that follow are worldwide recognized practitioners, keynote speakers, published authors, and above all, women that dazzle everyone around them using their professionalism, intelligence, and sensitivity. While working at Agile Thinkers and Experience Agile, I have the honor to work with most of them and grow on a daily basis, thanks to them. They are here today to contribute to Women in Tech community, sharing their knowledge with our audience. I want to thank Maria Matarelli, Fabiola Eyholzer, Katrina Snow, Ardita Karaj, Christine Miller, Karen Mendonça, and Soraya Jamal for being here today. I hope everyone enjoys the Agile Academy that follows. And remember that you can learn more and can watch more of these speakers next 25th of September in Experience Agile Conference. Thank you so much. During our academy, you can use the Q&A section on the right side of your screen. Feel free to write all the questions you have for the speaker. Each speaker will make a 20-minute presentation and a 10-minute for Q&A. So during that time, we will be answering all your questions. In case there are too many questions, we will answer them offline. So no worries, in case your question is not answered live, you will get your answer afterwards. Learn as much as you can and enjoy the topics we bring here today. And feel free to write us more questions to academy@agile21.com.
Changing, people are changing, labor is changing, everything is changing.
And how does significant change really work?
It's not enough to proclaim that we are agile, that we have practices or teams that are agile or doing agile or agile tools, or what we have all the courses, because what really matters is the organization and the customer's perception about it.
We're looking more at agility and specifically the human element of business agility, of high performance in organization.
Today, we know that the majority of agile work is originated in by three agile methodologies and frameworks to delivery organizations.
And the final question is, are we or are we not agile?
Okay, so are we or are we not agile? I'm sure that after Maria Matarelli presentation, we will be much more agile than we are right now. So Maria is a special friend from Experience Agile Conference. She's an executive agile coach and global strategist. She's a certified Scrum trainer and the personal agility co-founder. So she will bring us here some very amazing insights. I know Maria's work, so I'm very proud to have her here. Welcome, Maria. I will now stop sharing and give you all the word is yours.
Thank you, Paula. Appreciate it. It's great to be here and such an incredible event for celebrating women in tech with the Agile Academy. And I'm excited to talk about personal agility as a powerful leadership framework. As we look at the concept of Agile works so well in business, and it also works when you apply it to your life, the goals you want to achieve. And as a framework for taking that holistic view of what really matters, it also applies when scaling to organizations. So I look forward to sharing more about that as we explore this concept of personal agility as a powerful leadership framework. And this has been an approach that I've been using myself over the last 4 to 5 years. And it's been incredibly powerful to be able to take that perspective. And, we know these agile techniques work really well in business. And when you apply them in your life or as a leader, they apply almost even more effectively because you don't have as much red tape as when you look to introduce these concepts in an organization or with a team. And so I'm excited to share this with you as we talk about personal agility for leaders as this powerful leadership framework. Now, a lot of companies want to be agile. That's the reason that they are making changes in how they work, how they've worked for years, for decades. And a lot of times it's because there's these outside pressures of competing priorities that they have as far as what to release to market, but then there's looking at the market share and other organizations, other companies that are agile. And agile used to be a competitive advantage. However, now I've heard several people say it's almost so common that you almost need to be agile just to stay even and just to keep up with what is happening and what other companies are able to achieve. And so now it's not just this huge competitive advantage, it's almost necessary just to stay in the game. And the dynamic, it's so dynamic in the marketplace, things changing, completely different from ever before. And so it's a big reason that companies are moving toward Agile is they want to get those results. They hear of these results that other companies get. And even this article in Forbes talks about the degree of business success over time. If we try to plan it all out with one plan, with the traditional waterfall approach, we only have today's view of the opportunity. Though if we're using an iterative plan, if we're using an Agile approach, we can make these smaller steps and we can get further over the long run because of where the actual opportunity would be tomorrow. So a lot of companies are recognizing that what got us here is not necessarily going to help us get to where we want to go next. We may need to do something different. And as leaders, we need to be proactive in that change, in doing something different, rather than just responding or waiting until see what happens in the market. So Agile is something that is important for businesses, but also as individuals and as leaders and as women leaders, for us to have, this concept of personal agility is really taking this holistic view of everything that you have going on, identifying what really matters, and then having the visibility and the accountability to do those things and to be able to see and track your progress and to celebrate and choose, what you've achieved and then what you really want to do next. And then also looking at that at an organizational level. I love this quote by Lisa Adkins, who's well known in the Agile community. She wrote the book Coaching Agile Teams and co-founded the Agile Coaching Institute. And she said, imagine if leaders understood what it was like to limit work in progress because they truly embraced it. What if leaders applied Agile in their lives and they understood the challenges that team members faced? How much more Agile could an organization be if leadership was truly on board? And so what's actually possible with personal agility? Well, many of you may be aware of the World Agility Forum that's been held in Lisbon, Portugal over the last several years, and it's coming up on September 25th and for the beginning of Experience Agile Week. And there was a particular group, there was a category for personal agility for an individual. And the company that won was called TalkDesk a few years ago. And their CEO was recognized for their exemplary behavior of personal agility and how they led the organization. And I took it upon myself to follow up and interview several of the people that won awards from that event. And as I was talking with a representative from TalkDesk, and at the World Agility Forum, they were recognized on a global scale for their leaders' use of Agile as an individual. I was asking this person from the company, I was like, well, tell me more. What about this leader was so incredible? What about this leader and the way that they showed up made all the difference for your organization? And what were you able to achieve with a leader that truly got Agile on that personal level? And as we were talking, he just kind of slid in a few details. And he's like, well, after 7 years in business, we became a unicorn. And he continued to talk. And I was like, well, hold up, go back. Like, what did you just say? For many of you may know that in the startup world, a unicorn is a company that hits $1 billion valuation. And I was like, let's go back to that, because that's not something that all companies achieve. There's companies that have been in business decades or centuries that have never hit $1 billion in what their company is worth. How are you able to achieve this in 7 years? And as we began to dissect and really pick apart the key elements that led to that, a lot of it went back to the leader, to the CEO, to the ability to have someone who truly understood agility, who practiced agility, who breathed agility, and was able to truly lead from a place of understanding and thorough comprehension of what that meant. And so this reminds me of a quote by Michael Sahota, a certified enterprise coach through the Scrum Alliance. And he does a lot of work with organizations and leaders and looking at the culture of organizations as they transition to Agile. And I love this quote. He always says, you have to put your oxygen mask on first in order to help others. And this is a line many of us have heard when we get on airplanes. And it's so true when you look at leaders and you look at how you show up at your organization and be the example or be the change that you want to see. And for us to truly understand what's possible, for us to go first, leaders going first and setting the stage and paving the way for the others in our organization to follow. Not telling people you should go be agile over there. We're actually leading by example, and what a powerful approach that can be. So imagine if each person at your company truly embraced the Agile mindset. I believe you could shift the entire culture of your organization. And with so much that we balance at work, outside of work, now many people working from home and still balancing, perhaps doing homeschooling for kids, being available almost any time of day for work, not having a lot of places to even go out in the world these days. There's so much more importance than ever before for us to have agility in our lives, because that helps us. We're a whole person. When people show up at work, they're only at work, or should only be at work, about 1/3 of the day. That means there's 2/3 of the day that they're outside of work doing other things. So they're bringing that context into your work environment. So how can we really help empower people to be at their best with a holistic view of their life in order to really show up at work the most effective way possible? So if we can connect with people as a whole person, looking at what really matters, knowing what really matters in our life, being more fulfilled, being happier, showing up to work more engaged, focused on what it is that are the results that we can create at our organization, that's going to make all the difference. So I want to encourage you to think about this concept of creating a culture of empowerment. And one of the things that personal agility helps us to do is create alignment within ourselves and what really matters, alignment with others, and also alignment within an organization. Over the last several years, we've been leading training for people around the world on applying personal agility, and the results and the feedback has been incredible. So I want to talk a little bit about the personal agility system and some techniques that you can start to apply, and also share some of the success stories that we've heard from people. So there are 6 core questions of personal agility. And these are powerful questions that really help us take a step back from the busyness of every day and really look at the bigger picture. So I'd like to invite you to think about these things within your context as well. The first question is what really matters. And this is really at the foundation of what personal agility is all about. It's having clarity on what matters, being aware of how are your actions in alignment with the things that you say that matter. And how many things matter? Because if everything matters, then nothing matters. We can't do it all, at least at the same time. So that's where prioritization comes in. So we really recommend limiting the number of things that really matter to be 3 or 4 things. Because if it's more than that, it can be hard to be able to do anything with real excellence. We might have an inch of progress in multiple areas, but not a mile of progress in any one area. And if you're not sure what really matters, maybe look back at what you did last week. Now there's clues to this in your email, in your text messages, in your calendar, in your phone calls, and who you hung out with. When you look at what did I do last week? Apparently that's what mattered because that's what you did. So can you see any common themes? Then the question is, are these things that you're doing the things that you want to matter? Or do you want to do something different? If you took last week and you carbon copied forward it to next week, carbon copied last month forward to next month, took this last year and copied it forward to next year, are these the things that you want to be doing? Because are you going to be getting to the point you want to go in your personal career goals, in your own personal happiness and fulfillment, and in your organization and your organization initiatives? So because we are people that work on teams that then show up to work, the person matters. Sometimes people will say, oh, it's personal agility. That doesn't belong in the workplace, or that's not something that the company should support because it's on your own personal time. It's like, well, yeah, but companies want high performing teams when they look at Agile, and then teams are made up of people. So if you optimize the person, you can optimize the team, you can optimize the results at your organization. So when you look at what you did last week, you want to ask yourself, we call that the breadcrumb trail. These are the things you did that are an indicator of where you're going, unless something were to change. So we get to celebrate and choose. We celebrate what we achieved, and then we get to choose what we want to do next. And so we look at, well, what could I do this week? What are the possibilities? This is just brainstorming. Or anything that's important or urgent. Maybe something bad will happen if we don't quite get to it. And then of those things, we're going to triage and say, okay, of the things we could do, of the possibilities and of the things that may be urgent, what do I actually want to do? What's my real goal? And then we create our plan for the week, because we get to choose. And we use this navigation metaphor of, if you're looking at, sailing on a ship to Jamaica, and you have an idea of the course. It's a straight line, right? You just like go straight there, right? But sometimes we get blown off course. And so we're the captain of the ship. We're not just a passenger in our lives. So we get to choose, do we want to do something different? And this is where responsibility comes in. This is where we look at things like having boundaries, communicating clearly with the people around us, what really matters to us, and then even saying no to the things that don't matter. And this is the cycle, the weekly cadence of celebrate and choose. And with the things that we do every week, there tends to be a natural rhythm of doing things in a week. And so when you look at who you are and what you've done, and then you think about who you want to be, there's stuff you can do to get you closer to who you want to be. And as we know with Agile, the best way to get results is with steady, continuous steps, and sometimes micro improvements, sometimes small steps. And that's going to help us to get to those results over time. We can't just do it all at once. We're not expected to, and that's not necessarily always sustainable. Now, there's the sixth question, who can help? Because often, if you haven't achieved something, well, maybe you could have done it if you could do it yourself, maybe you would have done it already, but maybe could use some help sometimes. Maybe it's just accountability. Maybe it's delegating it. Maybe it's outsourcing it. I'm of the firm belief that there's almost anything that you want to achieve, you could either ask someone to help you if you could find the right person that would care or has the right skill set, or you could hire someone to do it. There's freelancers that you can find all over the internet that you can hire to do just about anything. And so who can help? Well, is it someone you know, or is it someone you can hire, delegate to? What can you do to get past any roadblock that's preventing you from being where you want to be? Now, we've been toying with this idea of a seventh question, and we start to ask this as well. And that's the question, what would make me happy? Are the things that you're doing things that fill you with joy, that energize you every week? And if not, could you choose differently to do things that are more fulfilling? Because just achieving things, sometimes accomplishments can feel empty, but having that extra element of looking at what would make you happy or bring joy and fulfillment can make all the difference. And ultimately, that's what really matters. What matters, is it achievement? Is it stuff? Is it where you go, what you do? Or is it how you feel? And over the years, I've come to believe it's more the second set of things. It's how you feel, and if you're happy and fulfilled in what you do, rather than just achieving more things and possibly having empty success. So I'm going to talk about a couple of key components with the personal agility system. And one is the forces map. And this is where we can visualize what really matters. And I want to encourage you to think about these top 3 to 4 things that really matter in your life. Now, this could be as simple as just listing out what is a backlog of the things that you could do that support these things that really matter in your life. Now, some other people will actually look at their forces map and say, well, what are the parameters around what really matters? What are the boundaries? I got that idea from Lisa Adkins as she was talking about the way she put together her forces map using personal agility. And I loved how she actually set boundaries on her forces map. So she would say, okay, I want to do things that I want to amplify my time, like the time for things that I want to do that bring me joy, fulfillment, that create ample time so I don't feel rushed all the time going from one thing to the next, so that my quality of life is better. So what are the boundaries, or what are the parameters for me to make the decision if something is going to contribute to that thing that I say that I want in my life? And then as you visualize and go back in and check in with your forces map, you can see, are these parameters still holding true? Is there something I need to make an adjustment on? Now, others may say, well, here's a backlog of all the things that I would like to do that support these initiatives. Now, the things that really matter, a lot of people will have a category around maybe their career, business, or professional development. Sometimes a category may be around health or fitness or something related to that. Another category may encompass relationships, whether that's a significant other, your spouse or children or extended family or friends, and having meaningful quality relationships and experiences in life. And sometimes it may be a hobby, or something that you just wanted to do that you never got around to, becoming a professional speaker, writing a book, being able to look at, of all the things that you could be doing, what would be, something that you've always wanted to achieve, but never quite got around to. And some people will have financial goals or financial freedom or things like that. So imagine if you had crystal clarity on the top 3 to 4 things that really matter to you in your life, holistic view of everything, work, outside of work, and you could actually take a step back, look at your forces map, look at the boundaries, look at the parameters of how you want to engage with the choices you make on things you do, and what the things are that you actually want to do. And so this can really help us get that clarity at the bigger picture. Then we move to the priorities map, where we understand what actually really matters to us based on our behavior. So as we look at the priorities map, you want to start off with saying, why are we doing personal agility? What are the reasons you might want to make a change in your life? What are the reasons you might want to have more clarity around what really matters? Then add those top 3 to 4 things from your forces map into the what really matters column and color code them so that as you add possibilities, as you add things that are urgent, as you create your plan for the week, you can actually see at a glance, what are the things that align with the things I say that matter? And as you move things to a done column over the course of the week, you can check in with this priorities map on a daily basis, multiple times in a week. You can look at and say, okay, are the things that I'm doing in alignment with the things I say that matter? Or how long are the things that I say that matter just sitting there and not actually getting done? And so this provides that mirror to reflect back to us what we're doing and how that aligns. Now imagine this at an organizational level. We've had people at companies where they've got 40, 50, 60 initiatives going at the same time. And you have people on multiple projects at the same time. Does it sound familiar? Most likely, yes. And so if we can take a step back and say what really matters, what are the forces that are most important in our organization, and what are the actions or the projects that we are doing that support that? And then let's, on a weekly basis, look at what are the things that are moving us closer toward those goals. And can we, back to one of the core principles of the Agile Manifesto, can we maximize the amount of work that we don't do? Focus on simplicity, because we are maximizing and prioritize the things that are of true value that will really make all the difference. So when we start to move things to done, we recommend keeping track of things done by week. And you can even look back at things done by month or quarter, but really if you have that visibility by week, we call that the breadcrumb trail. This is where you've been, a little trail where you've been. And if you continue to do the same things, it's an indicator where you're going. And each week we have that cadence of celebrating and choosing to say, okay, whatever we did, we're going to celebrate that because we did something, we got something done, no matter how small the steps forward. We're going to choose either to continue those things or choose differently if that's what we really want. And so this visibility can really, really help us to ensure that we stay on track with what really matters. Because if everything matters, nothing matters. If we can't see it, we can't visualize it, how are we going to track it and ensure that we are making that same progress toward what we want? So I'd like to encourage you to think about these concepts. What really matters at your organization? What really matters for you as an individual? And what could be the impact on culture if you actually connect with people on what really matters to them? What if you have alignment, true alignment with people? We've been talking with some large consultancies and organizations that have teams of consultants that go out and they've said, wow, this would be an incredible approach to have our consultants use personal agility to be able to look at what are the things that they're doing to increase their skill sets. If they're not with a client, if they're on the bench, like what can they be doing to continue that personal and professional development? And then we've had executive teams that have used the personal agility system, and even people that have worked together for decades. There's an executive team that said, the CEO said, I feel like we've gotten to know each other so much on a deeper level by connecting on what really matters as individuals. And it's incredibly powerful to see the results people have gotten using this approach. And I'd love to share with them to inspire you on some of the areas that you may look at applying in your life or in your organization. So Piali from Bangalore, India, one of the things that she was sharing after using personal agility was talking about knowing what's most important for her to do, and then having those clear priorities and having that as some accountability and some boundaries, and to be able to check in and say, Is this really what I want to be doing? And if you've thought through it, and if you've got it in your priorities map, it makes it very clear what the next priority is. Some people will even add they have the column for plan for the week. They look at what's the plan for today, and what's that one next thing that I'm going to do, and how can I take those incremental steps and continue forward. I love Laura's comment here from Milan, Italy, and she was talking about how she felt more focused on what was important and what makes her life happier. And I think too often we're not focused on that. We're not focused on happiness, joy, fulfillment. We're looking at what have we achieved. And so if we can actually have more gratitude along the journey as we are doing things and doing things we love, and we're in alignment with the people around us, it's incredible and can make all the difference. Lisa Adkins talked about applying Agile for 14 years and having the personal agility system helping her really look at things in a completely different way and seeing things in a different way. Shweta from India talked about starting her own consulting firm and finding it overwhelming at what she was able to do, because now she was trying to balance so much more than ever before. However, as she had the clarity and the systematic approach for looking at what she needed to do that really mattered, it led to a sense of achievement that led to more happiness. And a couple of organizational case studies. Walter he's an executive director from a company in Switzerland, and he talked about being able to turn his company around from almost going bankrupt to profitability a few years ago. And it's because they had way too many initiatives in progress, 40 plus initiatives they're trying to do, and they had to stop and say, wait a minute, what really matters and what actually will help us stay profitable? And let's do those things, and let's limit the initiatives in progress. Ben Seaver, startup company from Tampa Bay, Florida. They hit a $35 million valuation in just a year and a half and achieved a 3-year roadmap in just 1 year. And I've been working with them and their executive team over the last couple of years in looking at how they can apply Agile and applying personal agility to an executive team, and having that connection as people help them to achieve greater results, even during a global pandemic. Looking at Larry, a consultant from Denver, Colorado in the US, with projects only completing 24% on time, using the personal agility system to complete over 74% on time. And finally, Sharon Guerin. She went from working 5 jobs and barely getting by to landing, creating her business, making 6 figures the first year in business, and then landing a 6-figure client. And not only is Sharon happier and more successful than she's ever been, she's been able to lose over 55 pounds using personal agility. And she and I had accountability calls every week for almost a year. And we checked in with what really matters and what we're doing for our health and fitness goals. And so the possibilities are ongoing. And I'd like to invite you to get a few more extra resources and learn more about how you can apply personal agility in your life and in your organization, and as a leader and as a strong female leader. And so if you want to check out personalagilitychallenge.com/Maria, you can get a free copy of the Guide to Personal Agility and an interview with myself and Lisa Adkins talking about personal agility for leaders. So I'd like to open the floor for any questions that there may be. And I'm so excited to be able to share this with you and look at ways to inspire you to apply Agile more in your life so that you can do more of what really matters and get incredible results for your organization.
Thank you, Maria. You know, I'm a true follower and fan from the personal agility system. And before we go to the questions, I want to say that this system really works. I am also the proof of it. I had the pleasure to attend the training with Peter Stevens last year. And the main difference that I found between time management, regular courses or systems, and between these is that it's really agile, because you inspect and adapt on a regular basis. You don't assume a task and you only think about it after a long time. You really need to inspect and adapt on a weekly basis, and it helps you. It tells you to ask help when you need, and help is much appreciated sometimes. So thank you, Maria. It's a true amazing system. Thank you for presenting it to us. Maria, I have here one question from someone in the audience that asks, what if we have difficult to choose what to do next? Sometimes our priorities are dependencies from others, and we keep putting this behind. How do we change us and the ones that are around us to take all the roadblocks?
Great question. I appreciate that very much. This is where there's not going to likely be a shortage of priorities or things to do, right? Like things aren't slowing down anytime soon. And so what we can do is by just having the visibility of creating that list of things that really matter and being able to see the possibilities, what's urgent, and then creating that plan for the week. This is where you can actually communicate and share your priorities map with others. And you can say, hey, look, these are all the things on my plate. When you're looking at with like your spouse or someone, if you're in a relationship, saying, hey, here's all the things I'm looking to achieve this week. And we've had people where they'll say, I ask their husband, hey, can you help with these things around the house? I cannot do it all. I'm working and trying to take care of the kids and do all these other things. Can you help with these things? Just so you know, here's my context. Here's what I'm focusing on. And then in a work context, we've had people that have done this with their boss. They put up their priorities map right there at their desk, or now we work virtually, share the screen and say, hey, here's all the initiatives I have on my plate for the week, work related. And what is the actual priority? What would you like? Because if you have multiple stakeholders or people that have an interest in what you're doing and there's competing priorities and you look at that and it's like, well, I can't do it all. The reality is we cannot do it all at the same time. So by visualizing it all, by seeing it clearly, first of all, we're going to rank the order of what really matters of those items. So now we can actually see, okay, maybe this item trumps that item. You have dependencies, you're delayed on something. Okay, let's go to the next item. But really having that visibility can help us be more proactive and looking at the reality of it. I can only be in one meeting at a time. I can only achieve so many things in a given day. And so if that's the reality, I have to make those tough decisions. Though having the visibility, being able to see it, being able to share that view with the other people that have an interest in what we're doing and what we're completing can help that conversation be easier and can help us have those conversations around what's most important. And then also at the end of the week, we have that celebrate and choose event. So you can look back and you can say, did I choose right? And then we can look at making better choices in the future if we didn't, or we can continue to make those better choices if we did. And so it's not going to be perfect. It's not going to be perfect overnight, but it's going to help us, give us a tool to have the visibility to make those decisions in an easier way than if we didn't have the visibility.
Thank you, Maria. So we have time for one last question from Marta. So Marta says, I think that this Agile mindset should be taught in our schools and not wait to be an adult to think this way. How can we make a difference in our community and try to teach this Agile mindset?
I appreciate that question because we've also been talking about that and how much easier it might be if people learn this stuff younger instead of having to relearn the way that we operate. And so we're actually working with Boston University and their Agile Innovation Lab. And we're actually introducing this curriculum for people that are attending the university. We've had some students go through starting applied personal agility, and the feedback has been incredible. They're like, wow, I never realized it's just a simple framework to visualize and be able to prioritize and plan your work. They use it for school and assignments and thinking about what might I want my career to be. And so we have people that have been starting to use personal agility at a younger level and age range and in school. And so this is something that we would love to see more of. And so, please do connect with me on LinkedIn. Would love to stay in touch. And we have a lot of resources at the Personal Agility Institute. We have global roundtable sessions and discussions every month, highlighting different topics: personal agility for leaders, personal agility for moms, personal agility for veterans, personal agility for entrepreneurs, so many different angles of how this concept can be applied. So if anyone here is interested, I would like to encourage you to connect with me, and I would love to be able to share resources and help empower you to share these concepts with your community, because that's exactly how we make a difference. And, personal agility, it's based in the foundations of the Heart of Agile by Alistair Coburn. And the Heart of Agile is 4 simple verbs: collaborate, deliver, reflect, and improve. And Alistair is one of the people that wrote the original Agile Manifesto, the core Agile Manifesto that launched this entire Agile movement. And years later, he came back around and said, with all these scaling frameworks, things are getting so complicated. There's all these different methodologies and frameworks. It's not supposed to be that complicated. You don't need an 1.5-inch book, to start to think about how am I going to apply Agile. It's really at the heart of it: collaborate, deliver, reflect, and improve. And we found that when we talk about personal agility with the Heart of Agile, it makes sense to people. It makes sense to people that don't know IT, that don't know these concepts or haven't heard of it before. So I love that comment. I love that interest. And I put my LinkedIn link in the chat. Would love to stay connected with anyone that is interested in personal agility. If you'd like to learn more about it, check out the Personal Agility Guide. And we would love to have more practitioners and ambassadors around the world. We currently have 28 ambassadors across 10 countries of people that are doing exactly that, bringing these concepts to different areas, to students, to universities, to other groups, to the unemployment office, helping people get jobs. It's absolutely incredible. And so I am constantly re-energized and excited to see all the different results that people are getting and all the case studies that we continue to list on the Personal Agility Institute website. So thank you so much for the questions, and would love to connect with everyone on LinkedIn and be able to just share additional value on things that could help you apply Agile in your life as a leader at your organization and as a female leader as well.
Thank you, Maria. I wish we have more time to continue this conversation because it's a really cool topic. Thank you so much for being here with us today. And I'm looking forward to see you in Lisbon next, the 25th of September. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Paula. And I see one last comment here wanting to hear more about personal agility. There is a whole segment on personal agility at the Experience Agile event. So we've got multiple executives that will be sharing how they've applied Agile in their organizations. So if you can attend Experience Agile, I hope to see you there.
Thank you so much. And so I hope you enjoyed Maria Matarelli with the Personal Agility System. And there's much information on Maria's website that she shared in the chat. Please feel free to check the website and download all the free resources Maria has for you. And so next to our next speaker, also a very special person for us because we know her work very, very well, Fabiola Eyholzer. She's an advisor at board and executive advisor at GLS, an Agile HR transformation company. She works all around the globe, but much in New York. So she's used to work for great companies, huge companies in the Agile HR and leadership transformation. So I'm very happy to present you Fabiola Eyholzer with the power of female leaders. Thank you so much, Fabiola. Welcome, and feel free to, the word is yours.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Paula, for the kind introduction. Let me just open up my presentation. Okay, here we are. Okay. So welcome to the power of female leaders. I mean, what goes through your mind when you hear that title? Is it excitement or frustration or anger or rage? What is it? So this topic of female leaders can cause a plethora of different reactions. And one of the saddest parts is that quite often it's sort of pitched as this giant battle of sexes. So men against women and women against men. But that's not what it is about, nor should it be. And Nicole Smart really put it right when she said, one of the most pervasive faults and dichotomies in the modern world is the idea that for women to have power, be it politically, personally, or in the workplace, men must lose power. But this is really about embracing that diversity of thought. What are the different perspectives of that we bring to the table, regardless of the gender or color or pronoun or background that someone brings to the table? What makes us unique? And that's how we build a more equitable society and make companies more successful. But I'll talk about that in a minute. A while ago, I studied international business. We looked into Gert Hofstede's model of cultural dimensions. And he has a very interesting definition on what he defines as a masculine or feminine country. So the work doesn't look at it from a gender perspective. Instead, he looks at it from the kind of values that the society cherishes. So for instance, with masculine countries, they value ambition and the need to excel over, for instance, in feminine countries, the quality of life or serving others. And masculine countries tend to have this tendency to really polarize and value personal wealth and status above anything. So it's about being decisive, follow through, determined. And it's all about being admired if you achieve something. Whereas feminine countries, or countries with that feminine qualities, they focus more on the quality of life, on serving others. They want to have consensus, trying to improve beyond material or social status. So it's more about being intuitive and work in order to live, and also have that sympathy for those who are less fortunate. So I thought it was always very interesting to see those combinations. And what's fascinating, when you look at masculine countries, those are countries like the US, Italy, Japan, we see more that separation of roles. So you have more gender typical roles. Whereas in more feminine countries like Sweden or Denmark, we see a strong overlap of these roles. So that's very interesting how the social fabric can also influence our way of looking at leadership qualities. But at the same time, as we look at these different definitions, we also have to look at the economies. So you'll probably be familiar with the different stages in our economies and what is going on. So we started out in the agricultural economy. So we were hunter-gatherers, then we farmed the land. Before then, in the early 1800s, we started using power and water and steam to create the first industrial factories. And that's where a lot of our thinking, our underlying beliefs come from. And that includes our leadership approach. And with that, obviously, the values that we look for in our leaders. And that thinking is so deeply rooted that it's really hard for companies to overcome that. So that didn't even change when we moved from the industrial era into the information era. So that's anything that is going on the digital side. But the challenge is we are now at that cusp of the augmented era. So that means where we enhance our natural human abilities and amplify them through computational systems and AI and robotics. And it's really about maximizing our work on a personal, but also on a professional level. But we see all that change happening in the work. And the question is, so what is next for us? So what is happening in that augmented era? And what we're looking at is the human economy. So with all the changes that are happening, the nature of work is changing, technology, automation are taking away those more routine jobs, and the jobs that are left are changing. So what are the jobs that we humans are intensely good at? The jobs that only we can do, that cannot be done or put into a software system, at least not anytime soon. And that's all about that ideation and outside the box thinking and creativity and experimentation. So or anything that makes us human that we bring to the table is changing the way that we are working. And with that, we also have a new leadership approach. So if we say we are in the human economy, and it's all about higher hearts, tapping into what makes people human, what makes us as individuals, us as employees human, we need to define, so what is the leadership approach fit for human-centric organizations, fit for the human economy? And I'm curious to hear your perspective on that. So for this, I'd love for you to go on Menti, and I'm just posting the link in the chat as well. Please go to Menti, and you can put in several notes if you like to. You don't need to stick to one. Just put in what makes a great leader in this new economy. So go to Menti, either use the link in the chat or go to menti.com and type in the code 18125498. So we already have the first word in: empathy, being agile, being a good listener, collaborative, curious. So you can type in several words. I love it, human. It's a great trade, isn't it? Especially now that everything is going digital, we still need that human touch. We have servant leadership, being proactive. So we have a lot of great words here. Thank you so much for sharing. You can keep going. I'll leave it open. Let me share with you a couple of things that we see. Just go back here. Okay. So here are a couple of things that we see out there. So being compassionate, creating those safe and respectful places at work, working out compromise, valuing people from different backgrounds and different experiences, mentoring people, and so on and so forth. So the Pew Research did a study here and looked into who is better at these things. So they ask what on an executive level, who's better at performing these things. Okay, so let's have a look at this. Okay, so this is the side for women. So they rank highly on being compassionate, having that empathy that you were saying as well, and so on and so forth. So here is how men rank. So you can see their focus is more on negotiation, being willing to take risks, whereas for female executives, it's more on the nurturing side. So let's have a look what makes those male and female leadership traits. And I apologize at this point because we are going to be talking in stereotypes here. So please don't get offended. It's just overgeneralizing here things for the sake of our discussion. Okay, so here are a couple of behavioral traits that are typically associated either to female leaders or to male leaders. So we have things for female like being meticulous, autonomous, socially confident, communicating, paying attention to social relationships, and so on and so forth. And for men, it's more being rational, being decisive, being stress resistant. But if you look at these characteristics and we say, hey, we need to have more women in leadership positions, now think about what are the job descriptions in your own organization or out there that cover leadership positions. What types of words do we see in the job ads or in your capability model? Do we see those nurturing, creating relationship traits, or is everything focused more on being decisive, following through? So that's an interesting thing to think about. And when we look at women, they tend to have a more transformational leadership style. So transformational leaders aim to really enhance the motivation, morale, and job performance of their colleagues by working with the team, by helping them identify what needs to change, what do we need to create, what vision do we need to create. As Maria was saying earlier, we need to know what we're doing. We need to know why it matters, and we need to focus. And that is something that female leaders are good at, to really connect with the teams to make that happen. So here are a couple of things or traits that we see in female leaders. It's really about showing that empathy, as you already said, building those relationships, having that high emotional intelligence that is becoming so much more important in that human economy, rather than just the industrial or information era, where it's all about efficiency and running the company as a well-oiled machine. And what I like about female leaders in general, they let others shine. And they're great at building that psychological safety that people need to do their best work. So if you think that all of this is just a feminist movement and has nothing to do with like hardcore, tough business decisions, think again, because female-led companies have proven to be more successful than companies who only have men in their leadership team. So they tend to have higher performance, they have higher profit margins, and they have a higher innovation intensity. So all the great stuff the companies and shareholders are looking for in organizations. So let's see how many women actually make it to the top. When we start out, it's almost equal. We have a few more women at an entry level than men, but it's more or less equal. And then as we go up the rank, that picture totally changes. And There are different reasons why it changes, but it shouldn't be like that. The picture just doesn't look right, does it? Okay, so what is happening? Let's just see what that picture looks like at the Fortune 500 companies, so the most successful companies or largest companies at least out there. So what we see there is that, yes, the number of women have increased over time. So we started out in 1998, we only had one female CEO in the Fortune 500 ranks, but in 2020, that was up to 37. So that looks impressive, doesn't it? It's a nice chart. It's going up. Well, we had a couple of dips here and there, but of course, with small numbers, that's what you get. But it looks impressive. Well, not so fast. Here's the problem. Okay. So let's put it into proportion. It doesn't look that impressive anymore, does it? So we see that it's just a small number of female CEOs in our Fortune 500 companies. Here is the same information in a different graphic. So in 2020, we had 37 female leaders, but that's just 7%. Well, we're heading into the right direction because in 2021, we are now at 41. But it's still it's still the exception rather than the rule. So now that we've said females make great leaders, especially for the human economy, for human-centric organizations. And that high diversity at the top makes companies more successful. But why is it then that female leaders are still underrepresented? Okay. So the problem is it all starts with the institutional bias. So what's that all about? It's about systems that are arbitrarily discriminative against one or more groups. And they stay in place and are being upheld by the system because they are largely invisible. So we can't really see them. So in other words, we are obviously, we are oblivious to our mental models and the way that we are looking at the world. So think about someone who lives close to a train station or motorway or airport. They don't hear the noise anymore. So we get used to certain things being in a certain way, and it's really difficult to challenge that. So, and if you think about the capability models or high potential requirements in your organizations, we keep using words like decisive and calculating, and they are all masculine words. But we want leaders to embody more the feminist side of it, the nurturing, the building relationships, bringing in the empathy, but that just doesn't make it into the job description. So we have become so conditioned to see and understand this world of work. What is our great leaders? How do we approach leadership in a specific way? That it's really hard for us to overcome that. And that's why we're not making more strides when it comes to diversity. And we're not just talking about gender, we're talking about diversity in general. So when let me give you an example of an institutional bias. So the meritocracy. So meritocracy is this promise that everyone has equal opportunity and hard work is being rewarded. So the higher your performance, the higher you're going to climb the career ladder. But what if this is actually a false promise? So what happens when hard work and accomplishments don't actually result in promotions and salary raises? So you may be familiar with studies from MIT and other institutes, and they have repeatedly shown that the practice of meritocracy and with that pay for performance, they just don't work. Quite the opposite. And that's the sad part about it. It makes us think that we are being open, that we are creating those opportunities for everyone, and that we are being fair and equal and build an equitable organization. But that's not true because the system has so many underlying biases built into it that they don't work. So have a look at this here. So this is a study done by David Smith, and he published it in the Harvard Business Review. So what Smith and his team did is they analyzed around 81,000 performance reviews, and they looked into the words that were being used to describe people. And what they found out was that men were described more positively than women. So regardless of their performance, men were described more positive. So, and we're not saying that this was done to keep women down or hold them back. This is the underlying bias that's built into the system that is so hard for us to overcome. So, and let's look into the gender bias terminology here for a moment, because that's a very important part of making changes more visible, making our understanding more visible. And I have a little video for you here. Let me just play that.
All around me are familiar faces, worn out places, worn out faces, bright and early for their daily races, going nowhere, and their tears are filling up their glasses. No expression, no expression. Mad world, mad world.
Powerful, isn't it? It gives you goosebumps, and it's just showing how much words actually really matter and how we sometimes don't see what is happening there. I've used those male versus female words myself, so it's really tricky. So here are a couple of really practical things that you can do with your team or within your organization. And I apologize, they're all very HR focused. That's my core business. That's what we do. That's what we are passionate about. So let's have a look at a couple of things here. Okay, so we look into two groups. One is recruiting, the other one is career and growth. So the first one, when we look at recruiting, use those gender neutral job titles, sort of dominating words like ninja and go-getter and words like that. They just don't fly with female candidates. So really avoid that aggressive language and things like determined, use collaborative and more neutral words instead. We've just done that with a company last year, and we boosted the quality of high quality applicants 40-fold. So we got 40 times more high quality applications than before. And if you start building that strong candidate pipeline, that diverse candidate pipeline, you have a much better chance of actually building a big talent group that is very diverse. Okay. So the next one is we have to overcome that confirmation bias when we are in a recruiting situation. So what happens during recruiting? Let me tell you, or that interview, let me tell you from a 4-second to a 90-second to a 5-minute step, what's happening. In the first 4 minutes or 4 seconds, sorry, the first 4 seconds, you answer 4 questions. Do I like you? Do I trust you? Are you safe? And who do you remind me of? And that's playing in your head automatically. Anytime you meet someone new, those 4 questions are going to go through your mind. You'll make a decision the first 4 seconds. Then it takes you 90 seconds to actually make a hiring decision. So after 1.5 minutes, you know whether or not you're going to hire that person. Anything that comes after that is just a confirmation. Hey, I decided, I may not even be aware that I decided, but I want to hire this person, and you're going to look at the rest of the interview from that perspective, or vice versa. If you don't like the person, or you don't feel that the person is like you, it maybe get more tricky. So one technique that you can use is that instead of just giving a score at the end, do a score every 5 minutes and then compare those scores to see how are people doing in different parts of the interview, just to overcome that bias that is built into our fabric. Okay. Then also think about a gender reversal exercise. So this is simple. Just ask yourself if you're interviewing a woman, how would I rate this answer if it had been said by a man? Or how would I rate this comment if a man had said it? So it's a simple technique that you can use not just in recruiting, but across the board. And then also go in with team-based hiring. Really think about what complements the team. What are the skills and characteristics that we need on the team that will enhance the quality of the team and will bring more diversity into the team? Okay. So the next tips are all around investment in growth. So we have to start by redefining the term talent. You know, in organization, you may not be aware of that, but in HR, we often work with something called high talent pools, so high potential pools. So these are people who we think are gonna be our leaders in the future. But we have to redefine the term talent. In the agile world, in this human-centric world, every single person is a talent. Every single person comes with a unique set of skills and characteristics and passions and values that we can leverage in the organization. And that also means we have to invest in everyone. We can use tools like the growth profile to help people have those check-ins and see where are they at in their learning journey, in their career, in their growth journey, and how do we help them take the next steps. So you can do something like the job enrichment workout, where you help people, how can they flex their muscles on a daily basis? So what are the small things that they can start changing within their own work? Is someone on the team doing something that they would like to learn as well? Or are they really great at something that they could teach someone else? So there are a lot of things that you can do and that your teams can do to make this happen. And by flexing your muscles, you're also showcasing what you're capable of. And that's where also the exploratory assignment comes in, where we send people off to work in a new role for a certain period of time and guide them and see, okay, what's happening? What's the role, what you expected? So these are all techniques and tools that you can use to broaden your horizon, of your organization, increase diversity in your talent pool. And again, if you have a strong, diverse talent pool, then you're going to have strong, diverse leadership as well. But here is the thing, diversity and female leadership, this is not a program or a dashboard. You know, yes, it's good to have dashboard. I'm a data geek. I love data. That's great to have. But that alone is not going to change anything unless we know what's the institutional bias behind it and how do we break old regulation, old processes that are not helping us to embrace diversity of thought. That doesn't help us leverage what makes us all unique. So we know, and this is as a summary, male and female leaders have different leadership styles. And companies that embrace diversity of thought across the board, but especially in leadership, are more successful. So to capture what I said earlier, make sure to avoid that institutional bias, pay attention to gender bias terminology, and you'll find a lot of that in your tools. I guarantee you, if you open your eyes, you'll see them. Embrace diversity of thought on all levels and don't shy away from it. It can be scary to hire people who are completely different to the type of people that you usually hire. Yes, it's a risk. We don't know how it's going to play out. But that's how you get better. That's how we improve. That's how we learn to collaborate, even if we bring, or especially if we bring in different ideas and different thoughts. And encourage more women to take up leadership roles. And this has to be proactive through things like the growth profile and exploratory assignments, because men are more likely to bring themselves into play than women. So women have to be invited, whereas men would just raise their hands. And again, I'm being very stereotypical here. They'd raise their hands and say, now I'm up. And then a success on build on the strengths and growth areas, and so that you can really build that strong leadership quality across the organization and guide your young leaders through that process. It's an ongoing personal and professional development. This is not, hey, I climb the ladder, because those ladders are disappearing. We all know that. This is about a personal growth journey. How do we help each individual get there? And that's how we create it. So that in the future, there will be no female leaders. There will just be leaders. So with that, thank you so much. And I'll open up the floor for questions.
Thank you, Fabiola. I think all the women here relate to the words you just presented us. Thank you so much. And we do have a question from Marta. So Marta says, I believe that women can be excellent leaders, and I believe that men can be excellent leaders too. I believe that if we come together, men and women can strengthen the system, the organizations, and the mindset. I think women should come together and empower themselves, but I also think that part of the work to put women in the ladder depends also on men, on changing men's mindset. Not that we women take this position, but we believe that together we can improve, and that a woman can be as good as a leader as any man. How can we change this mentality in men as well? Fabiola.
It's a very interesting question. And first of all, I totally agree. Women and men can be excellent leaders. This has nothing to do with your gender. The question is, what qualities do we ask for and do we look for in our future leaders? And there we see a paradigm shift, because we don't need the same type of leadership today as we did a decade ago. The same way we don't have the same way of working today as we did a decade ago. So that is changing. We have to acknowledge that. But at the same time, we have to be careful that we don't talk about how do we change their minds. This is also about how do we change the underlying system so that people understand, or that we personally understand and have a different perspective on what is happening. So if you're in the Agile world, you'll know that. It's about how do you anchor those values and principles. And that's different than just saying, oh, okay, let's just implement the program. But we have to all come together to make that happen. But it starts by understanding what is the type of organization that we want and what's going to make us more successful. Is it the same leadership style we had before, or do we need something different? And how can we build on that diversity of thought across the whole organization?
Thank you so much, Fabiola. It was great and empowering, your presentation. I think all the audience agrees with me. We have one more question. Sorry,
Paula, I can ask myself. So, Fabiola, we all know that this is actually the unconscious bias that sometimes trap the leaderships and have the glass ceiling for women to achieve more. So, do you agree that sometimes we need to break the chain with a disruptive solution like quotas, and have a reserved part of the leadership roles in the companies for diversity, or for minorities, or for gender in this case?
Yeah, so my thinking on quotas has changed over the years. As an economist, I'm against quotas, because quotas means the system is broken. But here is where my thinking has evolved over the years. Sometimes we need quotas to really course correct, have that major course correction in the system. I don't believe the quotas are the solution for the future, but they may be the solution for now to kickstart a change. Sometimes quotas get ridiculous in certain countries, in certain situations. That's not good either. But after a long thought process, I have to say, maybe we do need quotas, because otherwise nothing is going to change. But we cannot just say we have quotas and everything is great. We really have to look at the processes and tools behind it and say, how do we change that? How do we adapt that? Because otherwise nothing is going to change.
Agree. But it's a way to move forward. So you can use a solution as you can use these as part of the solution, and then to discard it when we have the system corrected and learning in the way. So thank you, Fabiola. It was really amazing, this presentation. Looking forward to know more. and to hear more from you. And I think that our audience was thrilled with the information that you just provided. Thank you so much for being here.
For having me.
It was a pleasure for us either. Thank you so much. Paula?
Yeah. Yes, it was a true pleasure. You are totally right, Claudia. So our next speaker, I want to welcome Katrina Snow. I truly appreciate this type of topics that Katrina bring to us, because I'm 100% sure that there is many companies and professionals that don't have a clue that Agile applies to marketing, or as Hugo mentioned earlier, HR, finance, procurement. So Agile, it's not only for IT, okay? So Katrina comes here today to prove that, and is talking about Agile in marketing. Katrina, thank you so much for being here today, and I will give the word to you.
Well, thank you so much, and thank you for that introduction. I'm delighted to be here today. I'm going to be sharing a PowerPoint slide presentation. And I just want to say that so far, everything has been wonderful. I'm actually really honored to be a part of this, because it's been just so informative. I really enjoyed that last presentation. I felt that very deep. So here we go.
We all did, Katrina.
Yes. I'd like a recording of that at the end for sure. Okay.
Of course, deal.
Okay, can you see my screen okay?
Yes, totally.
Wonderful. Okay, so again, Paula, thank you for the introduction. Many of us have heard about the concepts of Agile in project management, business development, software development, or IT solutions. However, this use of Agile is for the development and execution of marketing campaigns. And I'd like to give you an overview of how we came to apply Agile in marketing, show you some case studies, and hopefully give you some ideas on how to start using Agile in your own companies. So my name is Katrina Snow, and I'm with the Agile Marketing Academy, and we offer trainings to certify Agile marketing specialists, practitioners, trainers, and coaches. I'm currently working in Agile environments, and I have a background in project management and a master's in digital marketing. So let's dive in here. So a little bit of background about the Agile Marketing Academy, co-founded by Maria Matarelli, who you've heard from earlier, and Nick Cementa in 2015, when they were at the time working together in Agile trainings, specifically Scrum training. Both being superior Agilists, they started looking at ways to help clients go further and get more out of the developments they had in place. And so they started experimenting with applying Agile to marketing techniques. And the results were more than they could have ever imagined. So they were inspired to develop the Academy, the certification criteria, and start helping companies be agile in marketing. So jumping right in, this is a great representation from an article where it snapshots this chart from Forbes, comparing the common waterfall approach and the Agile marketing methodology in reference to the degree of business success and opportunity. This is from a great article that I will actually share with you guys. I'll put it in the chat later, about applying the Agile methodology. And so what it shows is the traditional project management approach, which is to plan out what we think we can do for the entire project. And in this chart, we see where the waterfall stops at, quote, today's view of the opportunity without any adjustments. It's just a straight line. And it is based on a single channel headed for one goal, which can actually sometimes take months or years, while the business success over time is not being considered. So that only leaves room at the very end for change. And at that point, you've used up all of your resources. So if you look at the next line, Agile is an iterative approach and still requires a planning phase, but we're only going to plan for the present future. Smaller sprints allow for educated iterations. And I'm going to say that again. Smaller sprints, the lines between the blue dots, allow for educated iterations. We are making adjustments today for success for tomorrow and beyond. With shorter cycles, we can be more accurate, constantly inspecting and adapting and looking at how to improve with each iteration in real time, allowing for faster and more accurate delivery. We are consistently looking at things like, where are we? What are we doing? What is the market doing? What roadblocks need to be addressed? And how can we improve now? When you make a change based on what you know now, you can pivot and project exponentially faster. So Agile creates a built-in flexibility to more accurately navigate constant marketplace changes, ultimately providing sustainable growth. Does anyone recognize this? I mean, you can answer in the chat, but it's something that we use as a visualization in our Scrum training to show the difference in planning and execution approaches. This is the traditional approach of having everything mapped out in one sequence. And this same in a marketing campaign, same thing. When you're using the waterfall, it's all mapped out in one sequence, start to finish before you even get started. Then we have the Agile approach. So here's the comparison. The Agile approach of a sprint with space for planning, iterations, increments, and time boxing. When we're using Agile, we're still planning, we're just always planning the details in the present future. We continue to produce, and as we get closer to the goal, we have space to identify what has changed or is about to change in our environment, and decide how we're going to adapt those changes, identify and address roadblocks or errors, and how to better support our teams. Also, here's how we can adjust and break down the work in the present and present future to remain on budget and within deadlines. And I think those are two pretty important things, because nothing's worse than running a campaign for 6 months to a year and then finding out at the end that none of it worked or only parts of it worked, and we've sacrificed necessary resources. So when we allow room for the scope to change, we give room for us to change as well without falling off course or running out of resources. This way, we can strengthen our accuracy and our effectiveness. So here are the basic attributes of Agile, and I know that Maria had mentioned these earlier in Personal Agility. This is from the Heart of Agile, developed by Alistair Comer. This is how we support the accuracy I just mentioned. So we're going to collaborate, deliver, reflect, and improve. If you have a team working to get a campaign to market, the fundamental idea here is you need to have cross-functional teams in order to increase collaboration, to get out of planning mode and into doing mode with everyone on the same trajectory. It is not the static approach of I do this job and then that person does that job and then that person does that job. Instead, we find common skill sets among our team members and get them working in tandem. Next, you deliver incrementally with a minimum viable campaign, providing value in the present. Focusing on smaller increments allows us to break down the complexity and maybe even make a huge campaign feel less overwhelming. We're setting very achievable goals, and it's not only great for the degree of business success, as they mentioned in the Forbes graph earlier, but it's incredible dopamine boost for the entire team. Little consistent victories. Personally, having an overflow done pile with real results feels amazing. And so to get that done pile built up, you need time to reflect and get that data, and get it now. This is where you can get your finger on the pulse. Use the data to figure out what worked and what didn't work. Did the campaign, did it work with our campaigns and our collaborations? Did we put our money in the right places? Is the audience correct, or are we addressing the right needs? Where did we succeed and where do we need to work differently? We are addressing all of these variables while everything is fresh and easier to manage without the weight of the entire project, and we're doing it with real empirical data. So this leads right into improvement. Make the changes, which may be relatively small, based on the data from what you've discovered. Get the next iteration started almost immediately. It's a rinse and repeat. We are continuously inspecting and adapting to be the most accurate. So now I want to put all these variables into the Agile marketing framework. Ta-da! So this is the framework. This is what the marketing team will build their campaigns around. So from the top, the Agile framework for building and maintaining online marketing funnels, With each short cycle, your team will deliver a new campaign testing a specific message on a targeted audience. So the lower circle shows the heart of Agile concepts around the marketing functions. Collaborate and build their user stories, that being the as a who, I need what, so that why format to create multiple personas. We're going to build those personas and we're going to deliver a message that's targeted to who they are, what they need, and why they need it. Once we have some data, we can actually split test the messaging too, and really see where it resonates, but in smaller batches. Then reflect on the feedback and the results from the targeted audience, again, allowing us to be the most accurate and pivot our efforts or continue to nurture what we are doing. We can't make a decision to pivot or continue without the data. And then make improvements, the improvements needed, and cycle through again. And now our collaboration can include customer input. So every time you're going back into the cycle, you're going to have new information that needs to be communicated with the teams. So this strength comes in the cadence: collaborate, deliver, reflect, and improve. So when using this, one of the challenges we have seen with larger companies is they tend to have more fragmented departments and work in silos. If you're not familiar with the silo mentality, it's when teams and departments are working alongside each other, but not sharing team knowledge. So there tends to be duplicate work done, slow project time. Also, it does not leave space for innovation or scope adjustment from customer feedback or anything in the market, because the communication process tends to have some roadblocks and rigidness. So silo hierarchy, the more silo hierarchy you have, the less teams talk. We found that a majority of companies have teams creating marketing materials, and they don't actually see the results of the campaign. And that has seriously stifled accurate decision-making. And in some silos, the creative teams don't even know who the decision makers are. So honestly, a part of the real magic is when you can break open the silos, have a clear picture of who's making decisions or approvals, allowing everyone to know what the messaging is and how it looks, while keeping open communications among teams and keeping the cadence rolling to continue improving your message and reaching goals faster. In order to get companies to start applying Agile marketing, we had to figure out the pain. So we started to process through our case studies, and we noticed a trend in marketing challenges, in addition to working in silos. One of the commonalities was that companies didn't always have the right message to market. So if you think of a good product, it typically has a compelling point in the message and it attracts on the market. But other times, a really great product or service just misses the mark and it doesn't connect with the ideal target audience. And that alone can be devastating to a business. When applying the Agile framework in marketing, we really, truly try to solve the problem and show the value of the solution. And we want to connect with our audience on those variables. Where is the pain? How is our product or service of value to fix the issue? A lot of times companies don't go deep enough into the problem. They just start with the benefits and they run cycles based on that for too long without taking time to stop and review anything. It's like they turned on a faucet and just let it run because they are using their emotional attachment to the benefit of the product. They believe it, they believe in the product, they trust the product, and they're projecting on that, which also means the ad spend is climbing. Without proper incremental reviews, it is hard to know if and when the audience and their needs have changed. Essentially, they're pouring money into campaigns that are not yielding a sizable return, and they don't even know it. So there are more marketing medium platforms today than ever before, and it can be extremely costly if you're not using them in the most effective way. It is a dynamic environment, and it is constantly changing. But if we're working in smaller increments and applying the heart of Agile, then we can determine where the ad dollars are the most effective and where they are not. Then place improvements to turn off that faucet. Get the most accurate use out of the ad budget and reach our target. So let's see Agile marketing in action. Here's a quick overview of the case study that launched the Agile Marketing Academy. When Nick and Maria started to apply Agile marketing, they started to notice that some of the things they were teaching were effective immediately. I mean, right away. So this was an online business selling a unique product. And when they got started, this was the quote unquote current growth. They had some initial increase in revenue when they launched, but then they kind of stabilized and then just kind of trickled up and over. As a monthly review, this could be considered acceptable or reasonable as you're getting off the ground. But actually, this was within the context of an entire year. Not exactly the best progress, and they probably won't sustain if they continue this way and not try something new. If we were to carbon copy this forward for the next year and the years after, I don't think they would even remain competitive in the market. They certainly couldn't project any exponential growth. So here's what happened when they started to apply Agile. They saw incredible results in 6 months. There was over a 300% increase of revenue in the 6 months and a 780% increase for the year. I don't think I have to say much more about this slide. It pretty much speaks for itself. I don't have a slide big enough to continue to capture what happens beyond that, but that should be the goal of any company, to go beyond and to continue adapting Agile to go further. So how did this happen? They started by running 5 small campaigns, very small campaigns, to 2 different markets. Based on the personas that they created, as a who, I need what, so that why. And based on this chart, I know where I would put my marketing dollars. Campaign 3, of course, it was clearly getting the most visibility. In fact, it was getting over 600% more responses than the rest. So the product that I mentioned before, the online product, was for an acid-free coffee. And they originally campaigned around being a better coffee and offering a free sample, which worked out okay. But then when they added the Agile marketing framework and actually identified the personas, they realized the problem that needed to be solved and who truly needed acid-free coffee. It was decided that those with ailments and health risks who prefer to drink coffee are the target. So as you can see, the 4 targets at the bottom, there is also one at the end, which is the split test, and that's the sample campaign. I'm sorry, the free sample campaign. So as you can see, the ulcer campaign was the most successful. And so the way that they wrote it out was, as a person with ulcers, I need acid-free coffee so that I can drink coffee without discomfort. Pretty simple when you put it out that way. So now we know the person, we know the problem, and we know the value of our solution. When you really iterate and continuously inspect and adapt on what could be better, growth is possible. We've seen other companies be able to achieve very similar vertical growth over time as well, and I'm going to share some of them now. So Coca-Cola, who was commonly using waterfall techniques, but when they built everything using agile methodologies, they safely finished weeks in advance of their deadlines. And Salesforce, they said, we must realize the amount of marketing we must do is too great, and the odds of failure are too high without following a process of iteration. And then we have Adobe, which I'm sure a lot of us are familiar with. Agile marketing is the ability to adapt and refocus marketing efforts quickly and successfully in response to changes in customer behavior, marketing conditions, and business direction to benefit market share or share of wallet. I couldn't have said it better myself. So a little recap on what Agile marketing is. It's adopting an iterative process for faster and more accurate results. Focusing on the customer relationships that carry the most value. Don't just focus on selling. Really know the ideal target and actually help them. Organizing your marketing channels. The channels are ever-changing, and sometimes we have to connect and filter and educate ourselves to create the right system. We need those systems because sometimes we have to nurture the audience and take them on a journey to really discover their needs and the best time for our product or services to meet those needs, thus getting the data that will allow us to iterate and create the most effective messaging. So here's the Agile Marketing Manifesto. I'd like to break it down for you, discovering better ways of creating value for our customers and organizations through new approaches to marketing. And through this work, we've come to value these 7 things. First, validating learning over opinions and conventions. By having the shorter cycle, we're going to be able to accurately validate learning of what works, rather than guessing or sharing opinions of what we think is going to be effective. We don't want to spend months upon months pushing a marketing campaign that is not going to be effective. Second, customer-focused collaboration. We want to collaborate with our customers when we can, while we collaborate with each other about their needs and dissolve the silos. Third, we want to know what our customers think about our product or service so we can adapt and iterate instead of pushing one big campaign that may or may not be successful. Let's build and move forward based on what our customers are telling us. Fourth, the process of customer discovery, really understanding what our customers value rather than just a one-time static prediction based on our own assumptions. Fifth, being flexible instead of being rigid. We must be able to shift and be agile in the moments of change. I mean, that's all of it, right? Being agile in the moments of change. Sixth, responding to that change. This value is right from the original Agile Manifesto. If we can respond to change and recognize what is needed, we can be more accurate, which is crucial in the dynamic marketing landscape of business today. And lastly, many small experiments over a few large bets. Make several small experiments that we can test on a low impact scale, rather than build a huge marketing campaign for months and hope that it lands properly. So all of this allows us to be flexible, notice trends with real empirical data, remove the guessing, and be far more effective in all of our marketing. So over the last several years, we've been leading this training course around the world, from Shanghai to Singapore and Thailand, India, throughout the US and Portugal. The goal of the Certified Agile Marketing Academy, the goal of the Agile Marketing Academy is to take all of the things that we have found while working with clients and put it into a training format. Our case study program allowed us to reach companies from a variety of industries and build an incredible training program around the results. And so when we talk about agile marketing, we're talking about an approach that's based on empirical evidence of things that actually worked. And just a quick side note, the first person to sign up ever invested $5,000 for his first agile marketing campaign, which returned over $30,000. So we knew from just that alone that we had to standardize these learning objectives to help others be just as successful. So I do hope you were inspired by what I shared today. I'm happy to answer any questions. I will unshare my screen and open the chat. If Paula, if you want to even read questions, that's fine. If you have any questions about becoming an agile marketing specialist or applying agile marketing to your company or business, you can connect with me. I'll put my LinkedIn and my email and the link to the Forbes article in the chat as well. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, Katrina. We don't have any questions yet. Maybe we don't have any marketeers in the audience, but I'm sure that we have people that are affected by the marketing work in their companies, right? So I had a customer the other day in a big pharmaceutical, one of those that are producing vaccines, but this was before COVID, right? Mm. And she was worried. She was leading the innovation department, and she was like, I'm worried because my marketing is not fast enough to respond to our customers' demands. So it's impossible to, they do not launch in a very quick way campaigns or products or services for our clients. What should I do? So I would like to hear from the audience or have questions from the audience in case, even if you do not work in your marketing team, do you struggle with more information about your campaigns, the results? Are you feeling that your marketing campaigns are not bringing you any new customers or new leads? Anyone with these type of questions would be welcome in the Q&A. But I don't think we don't have any questions, but this was an amazing presentation, Katrina. I attended the certified marketing course this year with Maria and you, and I enjoyed very much. It's a really amazing course. And to the audience present, please inform your marketeers that in case they want to improve to be more agile, please do attend the certified course from Formula Inc. You can talk to Agile Thinkers. We represent that training also. Thank you so much, Katrina, for accepting our invitation. Talk to you very soon. Thank you so much.
Welcome. Thank you, Paula. Have a great day. Nice to
have a great day. You
Thanks.
too. Bye. Bye-bye. Thank you. Okay, so we have talked about personal agility, we have talked about leadership, we have talked about marketing, and now Karen is she's a Scrum Master and Service Manager at Self-Focus, and about Scrum and how can Scrum guide us. And by the way, Self-Focus is one of Experience Agile conference sponsors this year, and they are looking for new talent in the Agile contest. So in case you are interested in starting to work as a Scrum Master or an Agile coach, go to experienceagile.org, go to our segment Agile Employment, and there are some job opportunities there in Self-Focus. I hope that you find the job of your life. Thank you so much. And Karen, welcome. Looking forward to hear your presentation. The word is yours.
Thank you. Let me just share my screen real quick. All right. So you see the sentence right here, an offer you can't refuse. This this was the clickbait that my Agile coach used to get me here today.
I'm glad he did that. I'm glad he did that, Karen. I'm really glad.
Me too. Me too. Don't get me wrong. It's just, let me tell you the story and then you see what I'm getting at. So basically, when I hear the word offer or challenge, work-wise or personal life, I remember when I was a kid, my mom was always saying like, can you do this for me? Only you can do it. No one does it better. It's the same that happens when they offer a challenge or something like this. So I said, okay, but what is it about? Because normally it means a lot of extra work. And 2 seconds later, he told me that it was related to women in tech and Scrum. And it was like, okay, I don't need to hear anything else. So I'll do it. After all, you know, a little bit of arrogance kicked in, and I was a Scrum Master talking about Scrum. What could go wrong, right? So my name is Karen. I work for Self-Focus. I'm 32. I've been working in IT for 9 years now. My journey started in 2013. I moved around Poland, Thailand, Denmark, and finally in 2019, I came back to join Self-Focus. So Self-Focus is a company that basically is here delivering high-tech systems, system integration services in digital cognitive space. And it's, for me, the best part about this is just the team part. So we have global presence, a good turnover, but nothing beats the skill team. So if you, now that taking advantage of what Paula said in the beginning, the job offer thing, you won't regret it. It's basically just my favorite place so far. Okay, so going just to tell you the story about the clickbait and so on, why I said that I was a little bit suspicious and why the arrogance kicked in when I thought, okay, Scrum Master talking about Scrum, easy peasy. I'm gonna tell you 3 approaches. Hopefully, this story is going to help you get this feeling that I'm feeling now. That is when you get this challenge that sometime along the way you think, okay, maybe it wasn't as easy as I thought. It's turning into a mission impossible. And when you finally see the light at the end of the tunnel, you get this, okay, I climbed the Everest. You know, just this cathartic feeling that I'm feeling right now. I want you to be able to feel it too, just faster without going through the roller coaster that I went to. So first attempt. I don't know if you understood or not, but my presentation is going to be basically how I prepared this webinar and the struggles that I went through until I finally, you see. So first attempt, it was the Lone Ranger. What happened here? So basically, I thought, still with a little bit of arrogance, I thought, okay, easy. I'll take my first Scrum team as an example because I think it was the place that it was the team that taught me the most because I was super, super, super green. And I don't know, it wasn't, I think we all learned so much with each other, and it wasn't just about the product. It was us together. We had time to do boot camp and so on. It was a different experience. Then I sat down, I started taking some print screen of our backlog just to do a comparison between real world, my squad, and then just the Scrum guide and be like, okay, my premise is proven. There we go. A few hours later, I finished a slide deck completed. I'm a bit proud. My mom calls me. And I said, Mom, I have something to tell you. I'm going to be participating in this webinar, Women in Tech, Girl Power. Is going to be super cool. And she said, yes, your sister told me. And I already signed up. And I was like, no, what do you mean it's signed up? She said, yeah, I'm going to watch you at 4:30. No. And then it hit me like, uh-oh, how did I make this rookie mistake of not thinking about the audience? I don't know. I just thought that it would be all Scrum Masters. I have no idea. I don't know if it was just because I was super busy or just the fear of being in a panel where Steve Denning and Maria are here. So anyway, I talked to my mom. She said that she would be there. I thought, okay, she's not going to understand a single thing. She still doesn't know what I do for a living now. I mean, yeah. I said, okay, bounce back, girl. Let's go. Plan B. So there I go into a little bit of this, a little bit of that. This one was basically me saying, haha, I'm not going to fall for this audience thing again. I'm going to use this metaphor that's going to be so easy, so easy, so easy that even my mom, without me explaining to her before, is going to understand and basically do to the others what I do to myself, ask others to do to me, explain it like I'm a 6-year-old. So I created this super cool metaphor about this guy that wanted to open a catering business, but before he had this mission about baking, I don't know, this many cakes, blah, blah, blah. I think it was very cool, the comparison between a cookbook and the Scrum guide. I shared with my colleagues, my other Scrum Masters and my coach, and they liked it. And then I said, okay, so let me test it with my mother. So I can, take some things from Scrum, some things from Gordon Ramsay because we're baking, and test it so I don't have this frustration again of, not the main thing, not passing the message right. I have a call with her and it lasts about 40 minutes. And she says, it's been 40 minutes and we're still talking about the baking thing. You haven't correlated the story with the Scrum guide part. So thanks. If I want to open a catering business, I think I'll be ready. Cool. Okay. So I was angry again, frustrated and hungry. Next day, I decide to book a time and say, okay, I'm going at 6 p.m. I'm going to start writing down and come up with 4 or 5 different ideas. So I don't have to be, caught off guard again with okay, test it with my mom. She doesn't know, let's go start from the beginning. No, I went full brainstorming mode. And then I had like 4 or 5 drafts, started sharing with my coach as well, poor guy. And in the end, something happened mid-afternoon. Yeah, that was it. Mid-afternoon, something happened. I had an issue in production with one of my teams. That thing lasted until the next day. So basically, I did nothing for the webinar again. And I started freaking out, like going, I wasted another day. I have four different drafts. I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. I gave up and decided to call my coach. I needed to know what to do. And he says super calmly, Karen, your ideas are super creative. It's cool to see that you're so motivated to do this, but pick one. You don't have to, conquer the world all at once. Pick one, and then if you want, just ask for help, because he was in fact available all along, and so were my other colleagues. And when he says that, focus, pick one, and start small. And then I had this moment of deja vu. Like, he's doing to me what I normally do to my team. He's scrumming me, and then I was like, oh my God, I just have to scrum the hell out of this. So I took the approach, okay, I'm gonna apply everything, all the rules, all the roles, all the artifacts, everything, all the events to this presentation. And then, I'm such a genius, I'm going to show empirically how Scrum actually works outside the software development world, and firsthand, because this is exactly what I went through like last week. So there we go. This whole scenario of the webinar actually took me one step further. There was, I don't want to just be ready to deliver a webinar, this webinar. I want to be ready to deliver any presentation without stressing and putting this extra load on me. This was my problem. I wanted to kick-ass presentation, ensure my message is understood, and then in order to get to this solution in the end, I'll have to do little pieces. For example, this is my first step. I have this webinar, and then in 2 weeks I have an oral presentation on stage. It's not virtual again. And then another one is for 4 people. Another one is for 20 people. So these different scenarios. I think you give me inner peace if I get there. It was already something that I was thinking about, but because I misjudged the problem, I thought it would be way easier than this. I never considered Scrum as a possibility. It was, I think my rookie mistake was there, not understanding that it's not like step one, not instructions like IKEA. There were too many different dependencies that I should have considered. All right. So as the Scrum Guide says, first step, I needed to have a product owner, I needed to have a Scrum Master, and I need to have a developer. In this scenario, yours truly here, my personality number 1 is going to be the product owner. The Scrum Master is going to be my Agile coach. His time to serve and lead. And then the developers are going to be my mom, QA, of course, my middle sister, and my little sister. The little sister doesn't know much about Scrum, but more than my mom. She has a Scrum Master sister. The other one is certified, but she hasn't worked in it yet, waiting for conversion. Then the artifacts. We have the product backlog, the sprint backlog, and the increment. The product backlog was what I just told you before. For example, the type of audience this, audience that, the content, something I'm used to, something I'm not. Several different. This print that we have here is actually the mural that I was using with my team to prepare for this. Then we have the events. So in the events are the sprint planning, the daily Scrum, and the sprint review. We first established the time box for the sprint. It had to be 1 week. That's all we had actually. The sprint planning, we did it. We decided also because it made sense, right? It was the first one to happen and the one that I was most excited about. We put this webinar first. We then broke down the tasks in order to get this goal, to get this webinar ready, and hopefully the message to be understood. We started the development, then we got to the testing phase. we also established our definition of done, to be understood by phase 1, my mom, knows nothing, phase 2, my little sister, phase 3, the other one, and then deliver this presentation as the list. Now they deliver to them, of course. And then we are now is in another section of this presentation. Here, I would really, 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 really like to ask you to put the hat of the customer and to participate in this part as if it was a review, because for me to understand if this whole project was correct or not, I need your input, the good, the bad, the ugly. What would you like to have seen? What would you see? What could have happened here that you didn't see? I'm going to give you the last minutes for this for questions if you have any. But if you don't think of anything now, I hope you do. I will be available to either answer or just do it for me. This was a real project, even though some of the facts were a bit more dramatic, but I do want to improve. So if you could just give me input either here or offline, that would be great. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. In case you didn't have Scrum to help you, what other way would you find to prepare yourself for this presentation?
I would probably find some. The thing is, the first step that I took was just power through until I'm done, right? And I think the first mistake was there, that it's not easy enough for me to just be there until I'm tired, and I didn't have enough time. And I don't even know why I tried to do this by myself, especially if I'm trying to do a case where it involved my whole first squad. I didn't repeat the same mistake on the second one, but anyway, on the second one, I took some. I think I mixed too many principles. When it just didn't go right. Maybe if I think all frustrated with the whole situation that I don't know, I could have cut the second story with the cake thing, but my mind wasn't there. There were too many things to do that I wasn't separating, and now
Karen, as a Scrum Master, we have a very diversified audience. We are not sure about everyone's knowledge, but what would be, if you could tell the audience about the Scrum possibilities and Scrum benefits, what would you say to them based on your daily experience?
It was this scenario or my work?
Oh, your work, for example.
Actually, both. I think they have similar things. It's easier to anticipate and also control, for example, risks. It's also easier to have the events, for example, all the events already set up with the team. We know who should be there, what do we have to talk about. Also, for me, that I have too many things, too many meetings, just the fact that I have different Outlook items with different titles are enough to do the switch. And that's also something that I integrated in this one. When I was doing the preparing this, I was just, okay, when I find time, I'll do it. When I find time, I'll do it, because I was still thinking that would be easier than it was. And when it was the second, no, it was every day at this time I will be doing. I'll be sitting down and focusing on the webinar.
Okay, thank you so much. Any question for Karen? Please feel free to use Q&A. Okay, thank you so much, Karen. It was really, really nice to have you here talking about Scrum and about your experience and how did you prepare yourself for this presentation using Scrum. And I hope your mother knows better what you do right now, because I think all of us with our daily
was a part
jobs,
of definition of done.
yeah, we are with our daily jobs, actual jobs, it's very difficult to explain our parents what we actually do, right? So
Yeah.
I totally understand what you are saying. Thank you so much, Karen. Take
Thank
care.
you.
Bye
Bye-bye.
bye. Take care. Thank you so much. Okay. So. Okay. So after Scrum, we have two very important and amazing guests. Ardita, I know Ardita for 3 years already. She was in Lisbon 3 years ago for Experience Agile Conference. And I hope to see you soon, very soon again in Lisbon, Ardita, for the next year conference, not this year. But Ardita and Christine Miller are for the next presentation, What Do Allies Do? How Men Can Help. Ardita is president at Industrial Logic Canada and an executive consultant. And Christina is an IT FCG software engineering at Ford Motor Company. Thank you so much for accepting the challenge to be here today. Looking forward for your presentation. So the word is yours, Ardita and Christine.
Thank you so much, Paula. This is amazing because the topic we're going to talk about is a little bit different from the previous speakers, but it just shows that there are all these many talented women out there that are leading a lot of interesting work and a lot of innovative ideas to bring to life. So we have all this power out there, and yet there's still a lot of work to do when it comes to bringing women voices in front. So thank you for inviting us. Christine and I are very excited to be here. And we chose this topic because we thought, what would be a good thing to bring would be sharing our experiences, sharing our stories, sharing what has worked for us, and hopefully for the guys that are in audience, I was checking earlier, there are some guys in the audience, so maybe they can be our allies and they can take some of these stories and use them either at work or family. We're going to talk even outside of work and amplify the voice of women. So here we are. This is how we look like. Christine.
Hi, I'm Christine Miller. I am a ITFCG at Ford Motor Company, and I am 2 years into my career.
Yes, and as Paula said, I am also looking forward to come back to Portugal. Paula, I'd love to when it's possible. My name is Ardita Karai. I am an Agile consultant. I am president of Industrial Logic Canada. I love what I do, have been doing this for over 20 years, and I have a lot of stories to share and to tell. But we're going to start with some things that Christine is going to talk about, some of her experiences starting as a new developer in a large organization.
Yep. So like I said, I am a ITFCG at Ford Motor Company, which is a rotational position. So I actually get the pleasure of trying out a couple different areas before I settle down anywhere. I am currently in my first software development position, which I just started at the beginning of this year. When I first started, I really wasn't getting a ton of work to do. I was the new person on the team. I was a junior developer with very limited experience. They didn't have a lot of faith in what I could do on my own. So I was getting a lot of boring tasks that needed to be done, but weren't very challenging or exciting. There was a lot of manual testing that I had to do. But we had some coaches come and join our team this year as well, and they saw that I was really bored and eager to learn, and that I just really wanted a challenge. So they kind of took me in under their wings and helped me out. They would pair with me and teach me techniques. And they gave me a challenge of automating those manual tests that I mentioned. So I got to do a lot of great stuff with that. And I got to experience new areas, work with REST APIs, learn how to integrate everything together in a project. And it was an amazing experience that I think every new developer should have. So that's something that men in the audience, you can, and women as well, like you can think of when you're working with a new developer, of giving them just a challenge. Even if it's not something that has to be done, it's something that'll really give them the opportunity to showcase what they're capable of. And so these coaches, these men were my allies, and they supported me as a developer. They would give me feedback on my code. They were always there as a sounding board for me. So if I was trying to work through a problem or something, I would just message with them back and forth. And that was like super helpful. And it was just really great. And they even helped me with networking. And it's how I actually got to meet Ardita and how I ended up here today. And so it's just an amazing thing to have men who have all of this experience in the field of technology, because it is a male dominated field, to take me in and give me all of these opportunities and to help me advance myself and really just help me prove what I'm capable of, not just to my team, but also to me, because I may have, completed a degree and gone to college, but there's something different about working in the real world versus working in a classroom. And the challenges in the real world are very different than the challenges in a university setting. So it was just a lot of great experiences. Next slide. So another way that men have been allies to me is by recognizing the struggles that women face in technology. Understanding things like the daily biases and listening for differences on how our male coworkers can talk to us and treat us versus our male counterparts. And there's like things men can do as well to help with changing the narrative and changing how things work in the workplace. Some things are small, like, for example, when talking about a user or a customer for your product, don't just use male pronouns, or don't use one pronoun over a different pronoun way more often. Either go for like a nice mix of all the pronouns, or just go gender neutral with they, them. Because a lot of times you hear users being referred to as male pronouns, and it can really set the tone for, well, women can use these products too, and women work on these products too. So it just helps to have that representation of either it's everybody or not just male exclusive at the very least. And another way is working to promote women in the workplace. And by that, I mean talking us up, showing what we're capable of when we do something, calling it out and saying like, hey, this person did this amazing thing. For example, when I did the automations, I had to figure out a lot of things that my team had no experience in on my own. And one of the coaches made sure to tell the rest of the team that I did that I went out, I found that information, and I managed to create a program to do a task. And he wanted them to see that I was capable of doing that, and that I was, worth more than just manual testing. So yeah, he encouraged others to give me more difficult tasks, to give me more challenges, less monkey work, saying how I could handle those challenges. And he just really talked me up to the team. And it didn't just help me in my position with the rest of the team, it helped me with my own confidence in myself. I really have flourished in this last year as a developer because I had this opportunity to prove what I can do as a woman in technology. And I had somebody there to tell me that I was actually doing really great, that it's not just in my head that I'm capable of these things, that I am capable of these things. And that affirmation is really important. And I encourage you to affirm your female coworkers as well, like congratulate them when they do a good job, because it is really important to do that. Next slide. So the last things I wanted to talk about was learning how to interact in a man's world. So like I said, technology is a male-dominated field. So I have to learn how to interact with men in terms of meetings and in emails and group chats. And that's not something that really gets taught to us in school. And the coaches have really helped me with that. They gave me practice interacting with them on a one-on-one basis, so I could learn how to explain myself more concisely and clearly. They would give me advice on how to word things if I wasn't quite sure what to say. And they really encouraged me to start speaking up more in meetings and to give my opinion. They would ask me for my opinion at times, even in these meetings, just to make sure that my voice got heard and to make sure that I had a chance to argue my case and why I thought something should be the way it should be. And I even got to demo that automation to the team. And as a result of all of their help, I was able to demonstrate the entire project, explain how all of the code worked, how it can be utilized in other projects going forward for our team. And I was able to answer every question that was thrown at me, even by the team nitpicker. And afterwards, the coach who had been helping me with this reached out to me and told me that I did great, that he was really proud of me, and that I fielded all of those questions like a pro, and that he was proud that I wasn't even stumped by even the most nitpicky of questions. So yeah, it's because how women talk to each other is different than how men talk to each other, and it's different how women and men talk. And getting that chance to learn how to interact with my male colleagues is such an important skill, because it's something I'm going to need for the rest of my career. This is a male-dominated industry, and learning how to interact with men in a way to make them be able to hear what I'm saying is an important skill. And that's how men have really helped me out early in my career and will continue to help me out throughout my career. So now I'll hand it off to Ardita.
Yeah, I'm amazed that within just a little over a year, you have flourished so much, Christine. And sometimes we see this as I was lucky to have this opportunity. And to be honest, I have been one of those that until now I have thought I was lucky. So when I moved to Canada 21 years ago, I came with a computer science diploma, and I started working at a company that I right now I say I was lucky to start working on that company, and to have that experience where the collaboration, the respect, the way that everybody's voice was heard was great. I started as a web developer on a contract, because that's how they wanted to see, is this a good fit for our company? It would be a good person to hire. And then after 6 months, they offered me a full-time job. And I was really excited, right? I was very happy. And I was talking with my brother on the phone, and I'm like, they offered me this, and this is the salary, and these are the benefits, and I get to work in this great place. And my brother goes, hold on. That doesn't seem like the right salary for you. I think that you need to go back and ask for a little bit more. That doesn't seem the fair salary. And I was like, what are you talking about? How can I go back and ask? Can I really do that? And he's like, yes, you can. You have to. My brother is also in the industry. So he knew at that time what the salaries were, what the kind of like the negotiation skills that I needed to have in place. So very nervous. I was young. I was still new in a new country, right? And I went back and I said, can I have a higher salary? I don't even remember how I formulated that ask, but I did ask for more. And they did. They said, yes, sure. We love what you do. We like you. So sure, we will increase your salary. So that was the very first example that I had of someone, a male, bringing me into the world of how to look into this environment and what to ask for, what to consider fair. Asking for the salary to be matching my male colleagues was not something that was unfair. It was very fair for me to ask. So there goes like, I want to start moving a little bit even away from work. You as a brother, as a husband, as a, a friend can help women even through the thinking, what to dare, what to ask for, what is fair and what is the right for them to get compared to their male counterparts. Other examples I have where a senior manager that had worked with me before pulled me into his organization and said, yeah, I know that you were a web developer, but I think a developer can be a developer even on the release management. So he pulled me there. And then after, when he saw me having skills even like on organizing releases and managing partners and managing some really interesting transformations that we had, he said to me, where would you like to continue on the technology, or would you like to move on the business? And I was asking, so what do you think I should do? And I was 32 years old. I was a mother. I thought I knew a lot of things. And then he asked me, what do you want to do when you grow up? And it was the first time someone asked me that question. I didn't even know what to say. I'm like, what? But I have grown up. And then like, it made me think things through. And I'm pretty sure that a lot of guys still think about changing their careers late, but it was new to me at that time. And since then, I have not only changed my career many times until I become a coach, and I keep improving even on what do I coach and how I coach. But it brought me that perspective from the male world that there is opportunities to change career, to improve, to step up, that I didn't have those before. So very grateful to have had some really great examples of male leaders that have helped me through my career. But I want to move also into outside of work, because men are not useful or can help us only at work, right? We are constantly surrounded by friends. We are constantly surrounded by, husbands and fathers and brothers and a lot of male around us that influence our confidence, that influence our growth, that influence how we show up in our community. So I want to bring some examples on how in our community I was supported. I was a new coach, and in my mind, technically, I knew everything, right? So by the book, I knew everything. But when it comes to bringing it to life and how to use it and how to formulate it and how to approach it, I didn't have all that experience. And I got to work with two really great coaches, Jason Little and Andrew Annette. Amazing experience that I got to learn from that on like day to day, how they handled situations that helped me. But what Jason did, Jason is a public speaker, actually both Jason and Andrew, but Jason said, hey, I'm going to go to Agile Alliance conference, which is one of the biggest Agile conferences around for the year. And he said, would you like to come and co-present with me? I had never, ever spoken in public. It was very scary for me, but Jason made it so easy. He's like, we're going to talk about what we're doing. what can go wrong? You are just telling a story. You are telling things that we have done, that you have done, and you are just going to share them. So it's a storytelling. So my very first public speaking was in Agile Alliance conference, in this big, humongous conference with thousands of people attending. And I felt confident because I was beside Jason. He had mentored me, he had taken me, we had built the story to a point where I felt confident to present and to face the audience. And it was amazing. I loved it, everything. I loved, being there. I started connecting with a lot of people in that conference, to go back to Christine's networking. And I became actually a member of the Agile Alliance. I've been a member, a volunteer for many years after that, because I felt like now I found my community, and I found that support, that invitation to be part of it. For many years, I have also been a track chair for the conference itself, and I remembered how I started being the first time speaking at the conference, and I always remembered how to bring those new voices. So my co-chairs for the conference have always been male. for many years have been different men, but I've always had their support. I've always had that ability to talk to them and create together a great conference where I could hear their perspectives, they heard my perspectives, and together we created a great conference with amazing speakers. So love that opportunity to be involved and brought in the community, and then supported, right? Given credit. So Jason started with telling them, well, Ardita did this, and this is how we did it, and then as a team, right? So that giving the credit and attribution was so important for me at that time, to give me that confidence that, okay, what I think I know and what I'm doing, it is actually something good, and people want to hear more and like it. It just happens that also my husband is an Agile coach. That doesn't happen often. I'm not saying that you should go and marry all your Agile coaches. Not suggested in most cases. My daughter is not very happy to have 2 Agile coaches at home. She is tired of hearing Agile advices and mindset advices. She has learned to say, listen, that's Agile, go talk to work on this. But from my perspective, it has been amazing to have someone that understands what our community is trying to build and what our community is trying to reinforce when it comes to having women's voices heard. Sharing chores like collaboration. Everything that we talk in Agile about collaborating at home, collaborating on a team, well, we collaborate at home. Everything we do is a collaboration. Not being afraid to say, you're right. I have a lot of experience with men that don't want to work with me or partner with me on events or anything because they want to be right. Their ideas have to be the ideas that have to move forward, not open to say, oh yeah, I like that idea, or you know, you are right. You were right on saying that we shouldn't have done that, or we should have done that, right? So don't be afraid of that. Open the door, and when something is right, yeah, that's don't be afraid to say you're right. It's an example that you are bringing, not just to your co-workers, but to everybody in your family. Example for the daughters that you are raising. I'm pretty sure we want to see, we are this generation that is kind of like following the trailblazers of our mothers, and we are trying to make a stance that we belong here, we are strong here, we are bringing the voice, but this requires still a lot of support and requires a lot of attribution. When I talk about attribution, some really great examples come from social media. Here is one that I just saw it like when I was preparing these slides, and I said, how fitting. Look at it, Chicago Tribune. a huge newspaper, a huge media, right? They have thousands, millions of followers, and look at how they talk about a woman winning a medal in the Olympics. And it takes another guy to go back and say, well, you misspelled her name. Her name is Corey. She's not the wife of Bears lineman. Her name is Corey, right? And attribute it properly. These are some of the things that in social media we need a lot, is lacking. There are so many examples of women being doxxed and women being treated, especially on gaming industry. You have a lot of stories there. Google, a lot of women from Google have spoken up on some horrible stories going on there. And when you go to social media, you don't get that support. It's really hard. And women are actually sometimes attacked on this. Would be amazing to have a group of men, a group of allies that actually support us on these, that actually make a point and bring these attribution of what women bring or our names forward, because it is such a strong platform to share ideas, to share examples, and to set the tone. So absolutely, if you are on social media, LinkedIn, Twitter, wherever you are, when you see lack of attribution to women, making a small comment, it should be easy, but it just gives that confidence and it sets the example. So these were some of the examples that Christine and I wanted to share. These are just stories from our experience, Christine, 1.5 years and me 20 years. But again, it seems like we both have gone through a lot of similar paths, and there's still work to do. Even after 21 years that I was there, still Christine is going through the same challenges that I went when I started. Any questions? We're open. We want to, if you want us, we can talk more about our stories.
We have here one question, and it's so great to have your presentation because it's so well connected with Fabiola Eyholzer presentation, where some questions like how can we change men mindset? How can we start being treated like we deserve? So I'm glad that you brought these two good experience, and I'm also glad that are good experience because we cannot quit, right? And seeing cases like yours give us hope that equality, it's possible. We are building equality relations inside the organizations. And so I have a question from one member of the audience. How we know in an interview, in the step where we meet the leader we are going to work with, is not easy, or is he not an ally? How do we know that when we meet him? What tricks or techniques or questions can be raised on the conversation to help to know? In our team, if we find that our leader is actually a subtle opponent, what is the next step? Step out, for instance, or embrace the fight?
Christine, do you want to take any part of this or all of it? And I can add more.
I can speak a little bit to the interview part. So when I was interviewing for my current position, one of the things that I had to do was sit in a big room of people, most of which were men. And they were just really trying to feel me out to see if I was a good fit for the company before sending me on to the next round of interviews. And a great way there to see what kind of people you'll be working with, what kind of culture is at this potential workplace, is to just have a conversation with them. People can really reveal a lot about themselves with how they address you, how they act when you enter the room. Are they smiling and greeting you, or are they, oh, you're a woman? Because that actually happened to my mom once, because she has a gender neutral name. And so there's just things like that. It's not always going to be super obvious because sometimes men have these biases that they don't realize that they have. So at that point, you just have to kind of look for the subtle cues of how are they referring to things. when you ask them a question, do they automatically default to male gender pronouns or female gender pronouns for certain things, and kind of give like slight stereotypes, just things like that. In an interview, though, I think it's a lot harder to figure out than working day to day with somebody.
Yeah, in an interview, it's interesting. One example that I can bring, I was interviewing on a startup, and it was a team actually just all male, literally. And one of the questions that they asked me on the interview was, are you comfortable working with teams that are all male? And that was an indicator. I wasn't that prepared at that time to, pick the cues, and even when they are like more around, not so strong, but a little bit like light, I wasn't prepared, and I said, I have always been in environments that are male dominated. I've studied computer science, I've worked as a developer, so I expect to be working with men. And then after, when I started, I saw what they meant. It was really the technical lead of that group that was really a dominating figure in a lot of ways. And it got to a point where you can see what's going on, you can try to open the door, you can, example, the other developers, we had a ping pong table because all the startups have to have things to make the environment, friendly. So there was a ping pong table. When developers used to go and play ping pong because they needed a break, oh, great, guys, go have a break, get charged. But when I went to play ping pong with someone on the team, I was told, you've been away for an hour and a half. Like, you cannot play ping pong so much. So here are the examples of how different I was seen on the team and how different the guys were seen on the team. I tried to speak with his manager, and his manager was even worse. And it was a clear indication that I didn't belong in that organization, and I left. I can share you even some stories that I've read from some women from Google in the same similar situation. They did their best. They raised their voice in a way to show and to make these issues visible. But when you see that you are speaking with your manager, you are making these problems visible, you are saying that didn't settle well with me, and nothing happens, probably that's not the right place for you. The right place where I saw this happening was in a team where there were 4 men and 3 women. And at one case, I saw one of the guys attributing something that I said to another guy. And then after 2 minutes talking, they said to me, so Ardita, what do you're okay with this? And I said, I'm sorry, I have checked out 2 minutes ago. I said something, and then I heard X saying that he said that rather than Ardita. And I've checked out, I don't know what you've been talking in the past 2 minutes. And after that call, one of the girls on the team, she pulled me and she said, I just learned something new from you. I learned how to deal with this in other situations because this happens all the time. So make it visible, bring your point forward, let them know how their behaviors, how their words, how their attitude is affecting your how you show up on the team, your confidence, how your attribution and your perspective is affected. And if you don't see them taking a step back and thinking about it and actually changing that, then probably that's not the right place for you.
Totally agree, Ardita. And another question relating to what you said. In case those men decide to become our allies, okay? They want to extend an olive branch and move forwards. How do you build those bridges that were destroyed during the previous behavior?
Forgive them.
Yeah, one conversation at a time.
Yeah, I mean, accept it that they are probably going through some changes and it is new for them to think now in this way. And it is probably, sometimes they might stumble, right? They might go back, but if they have shown a desire to change their behavior, to change their language, to change their attitude, support them. And actually, if they do something, even just say, thank you for doing that. I really appreciate what you did. Christine, you probably have more.
Yeah, no, just the same thing. Like, people are capable of amazing amounts of change if they're willing to put in the work for it. And it's not an overnight process. You know, it's like the saying, Rome wasn't built in a day. Changing your mindset on something isn't gonna happen in one day. You had a lifetime to form your old mindset. So it's gonna take another lifetime to change it. And it's just about making conscious choices every day. And on our part, it's about working with those allies and those potential allies to show them what they're doing right and how they could correct other behavior. It's not about judging them or attacking them at all. It's about just having conversations and showing them our perspective.
Thank you so much, Christine and Ardita. One last question. How can Agile help this? How can Agile help transform the opponents in allies?
Well, Agile has people in the center of everything. And that's why I like this community, right? Because putting people in the center and making this all related to people. Also, I come from modern Agile, and modern Agile, one of the principles there is make people awesome. So that's such an amazing principle to have. That's such an amazing, value to share together. And Agile offers collaboration. Agile offers listening everybody's voice, bringing clients together, bringing team members together, bringing all the skills together to have these cross-functional teams. Well, let's extend that, right? Let's say bring cross point of views team members, and cross point of views comes from different genders, different races, different backgrounds, cultures, and everything. So Agile definitely support these kind of teams, and I think we have an opportunity when we build these Agile organizations to speak up and make these inclusion, make it more forward, more centered. Christine, I don't know, do you have any more?
Well, I don't think I have as much as you do, because being so early, I haven't had a lot of chances to work a ton with Agile and with the Agile community, but I liked everything you said.
I love though that you bring the technical perspective, because sometimes we see the technology being always in a men's world, and I like what you bring, that female point of view from the technology point of view into how we work in Agile, like a demo, right?
Yeah.
To speak to the demo, you were there and you did a demo and you showed allowing women to do demos, right?
Yeah.
And Ardita, you are one of the mentors of the new Agile Voices program that is showing on 2 days of the Experience Agile Conference. So this is a program where we asked for underrepresented groups, women, but not only, underrepresented group of people, voices, right, that needed a stage. And Ardita is doing a hell of a job being mentoring those people for their presentations on the 28th and 29th of September. What can we expect? Just a little information. We don't want you to tell the whole story, but what can we expect from those presentations, Ardita?
Just like I benefited from being involved and invited in the community, I would like to bring others in community. I love that Christine is now a part of our community. So together with Nadezhda, we are bringing voices that we haven't heard enough. Maybe they are like quiet voices, but we want to put them in stage and give them that focus that we want them to have, because they are bringing very important topics. We have from people that are completely changing the education system, to people that are working on how to improve our own selves and our own way of showing up at work, how to see our work as a family. So you have people that come from the psychology, you have people that come from changing and radically changing organizations, and people that are going to share some very personal experience from Silicon Valley. So we are putting the program together, to Paula's point. Go check it out. We have 5 amazing speakers coming up, and I can't wait for you to listen to their stories.
I just shared the link directly for the page with the name of the speakers and their story that will be presented in the end of the month. Thank you so much, Ardita. And thank you so much, Christine. It makes so much sense, your presentation. And you know what? The next one is about psychological safety. So it's right. It's so
it just fits well.
It does fit well. It does fit well. And so our next speaker, sorry, just sharing this, it's Soraya Jamal, and Soraya is a psychologist. She's a consultant in human factors and organizational behavior at Portuguese Air Force and also at Agile Thinkers. We have the pleasure to include Soraya in many of our consultancy jobs. So it fits very well, because without feeling safe, women cannot speak for themselves and cannot affirm themselves. So Soraya, how can you help, or how can companies achieve an environment where everyone feels safe? The word is yours.
Thank you so much, Paula. Welcome, everyone, and thank you for this. My name is Soraya Jamal. I'm delighted to be here today at this initiative about psychological safety with in an agile mindset for human resources. I'll just share my screen. Okay, and you're right, Paula, it does fit so well, and it relates with this theme that Ardita and Christine were talking about, and I so related to that, and it has a lot to do with psychological safety as well. So I really want to bring awareness about psychological safety, especially in this time where everything is changing at a fast pace. So my goal is really to raise awareness about the importance of psychological safety and what can leaders do to promote psychological safety in their teams. And I will begin by asking you these questions to think about them. Do you feel seen and heard in your team or in your organization? And I think the examples of Ardita and Christine were very, very related to this. It's really hard not to be seen or heard. And how comfortable do you feel to speak up regarding a difficult subject when you make a mistake or when you disagree? So we'll see that it's not so comfortable. And as a leader, how do you nurture psychological safety for every single individual? So this is also sometimes a very hard task. But first, let me tell you how this is related to the Agile mindset. We know that innovation and technology are the core drivers of change when it comes to work and human resources. And the term Agile refers to an approach to human resources that strives for constant innovation and responsiveness in the face of an uncertain labor market. So we don't have every answer It's sometimes we don't know what's coming ahead, and it really depends on our adaptability. It doesn't depend on things that are already structured and just a one-size-fits-all model. It's not like that. And as some prior research shows, psychological safety is a driver to adaptive, innovative performance at the individual, team, and organizational level. For example, successfully creating a network of teams, an agile structure that empowers teams to tackle problems quickly by operating outside of bureaucracy and structures with silos. This really requires a strong degree of psychological safety. And today, more than ever, being agile in HR means just rethinking our way of thinking and doing and align it to the needs of a digitalized and tech world. We know that the new world of work revolves around these topics, right? Around autonomy, self-organization, adaptability, network, openness, diversity, and also around employees, the experience of the employee and their well-being. So it has a strong focus on the well-being of the employees. So Agile HR is also about thinking about the user's experience, and it elevates how we do work, actually. So within this framework, I would like to introduce the concept of psychological safety that has been popularized by Amy Edmondson. And psychological safety is the belief that you can take risks and put forward ideas without facing ridicule or retaliation. More often than not, it's women who don't feel comfortable doing so. And that's concerning. So imagine that you see something ethically questionable, or you notice someone that's not being included, or you run up against offensive speech, or you disagree with an opinion that's all too quickly become consensus. You want to add a different idea to the decision-making process. While we would all think that if we saw something, we would say something in these situations, we are very, very bad at anticipating how we'll feel in future circumstances. And for a whole number of cognitive reasons, it can be really incredibly difficult to speak up in the moment. In fact, research suggests that most people tend to not act and then rationalize their inaction. So speaking up is really a hard thing to do. And why? Some of you may ask if I am honest, authentic, and upfront. So it doesn't seem very logical, right? Actually, humans are social beings. We are always searching for connection and also trying to cause a good impression. So taking interpersonal risks is something that we normally avoid. I mean, nobody likes to be shut down, blamed, ignored, right? It's just not good for our psychological health. So it doesn't help us as well in terms of performance. However, so this is tough, and some unconscious bias and also our environment, team climate, and even the behavior of our teammates and leader can really influence the level of psychological safety that we experience. So we know that in the workplace, it's increasingly important that people feel safe speaking up. In fact, there's an internal Google study found that the #1 driver for high-performing teams is a feeling of psychological safety or a shared belief that the team or culture is safe for interpersonal risk-taking. I mean, when employees feel safe, they trust that they can admit mistakes, They can seek feedback, they can learn, or even they can fail without consequences. Not only this leads to greater success at the team, but it can be really life-saving in certain settings. Just imagine when a co-pilot challenges his captain in the cockpit, or a nurse when she sees something wrong at the surgery and tells it to the doctor. Even in lower stakes environments, teams with psychological safety have a higher chance of innovation, growth and expansion, and better collaboration, trust and inclusion. So the research really shows that women are less likely than men to speak up without solid data or the conviction that they are really right about what they are going to say. So they'll hold back. Maybe because of some of the examples that Ardita and Christine gave us. So that's really concerning, that women don't feel secure enough to speak up at critical junctures is problematic for everyone. We know that a lack of psychological safety has contributed to many organizational errors and failures in several industries. I come from the aviation industry, and I've been part of some accident investigations that happened mostly because of human factors main causes, and there's always a lack of psychological safety associated. So this is really, really worrying. So according to Dr. Edmondson and some researchers in this area, they say that team leaders have a central role in promoting team psychological safety. It seems obvious, but leaders need to build a safe environment where people can share their ideas and opinions, stimulate people's will to share their ideas, and also create the environment, create rules, create practices and rituals that make sure that the unusual or divergent ideas get attention and are debated. So team leaders should present 3 fundamental behaviors in order to foster psychological safety. Firstly, they must be available and approachable. They must be present. Secondly, leaders must welcome feedback from team members. And finally, leaders must show a model of openness and fallibility. They're humans, right? So they're also vulnerable, and it's okay to show some vulnerability. There are a lot of studies on vulnerability and courage that can also add to this. So as leaders, how can we influence our team to increase performance? I mean, just being a role model in terms of our thinking, our emotions, our behavior. We know that every eye is on the leader. So for example, if we see that one of our team members is visibly anxious before going to a presentation with a client, you don't have to say things like, calm down or don't worry. Instead, you can just model through nonverbal communication using a soft tone of voice, a gentle pace walking, and serene facial expressions. It will probably have a positive impact and positive contagious on her or on him. So really, actions speak louder than words. Leaders who are committed to fostering inclusion, a diversity mindset, and a speak up culture must model, promote, and reward behaviors that promote a safe work context where all employees can share their ideas and learning, or challenge the status quo without fear of blaming, shaming, or humiliation. And all of this, I mean, acknowledging and rewarding teams, share personal stories, being available, avoiding blame or shame, modeling curiosity, which is so important. This is definitely being agile. It's about creating a safe space to share, to learn, to fail, and to discuss this together. Finally, I will leave you with this thought, which is especially relevant in a context where women have more and more the responsibility to lead, to inspire, to challenge some outdated ways of thinking. So positive team climate is the most important driver of psychological safety and most likely to occur when leaders demonstrate first supportive and consultative behaviors, and then they begin to challenge their teams. So it has to be this component of being supportive, being consultative, and then start challenging the team. So that's what some of the ideas that I wanted to bring you around psychological safety and why this is considered to be framed in an agile way of thinking and an agile mindset. And I'm happy to answer some questions or to debate these aspects if you want to hear more. Thank you.
Thank you, Soraya. Soraya, as a business consultant also, and you have been working with Agile thinkers in some clients, what are the main aspects that you are finding in these consultancy services related to lack of psychological safety? What are the main concerns from the people that you have interviewed and dealt with? Can you share with us, of course, without naming any of these clients or people, but what are the main concerns as humans that affect our safety, of psychological safety, sorry?
Well, I mean, this also has to do with organizational culture, and this is very rooted in some cultures, right? So that's why sometimes it's really a hard thing to change, and it's slow. And I think what I've been seeing is that people feel a huge amount of pressure to produce, to their performance, to show indicators of performance, but then they just don't feel seen and heard. And we have to know that there's a part of performance which is extremely important. We can only perform if we feel good, right? If our well-being is being taken care of. So that's sometimes what is lacking. That's what I've been watching.
Thank you, Soraya. So I guess there are no questions for now from the audience. I appreciate, I think this topic is a very hot topic since we have been discussing the reality of women as equal beings in the organization. So feeling safe inside an organization, having the ability to speak, to affirm themselves without feeling fear, it's a much important issue that all the organizations should care about, having psychological safety installed as a mindset. It's such a normal thing in all organizations. Thank you so much, Soraya, for bringing us this topic that is so well related to the other ones that we have seen during the afternoon. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, so we have reached the end of our presentations. I just want to thank you for joining us today. Tomorrow, check your mail because you will get a feedback form directly from the Zoom platform. There will be there inside the email a link. You can send us your feedback, and for everyone that sends us the feedback, it will be issued an attendance certificate. I hope you find that useful. And any questions for our speakers or any questions related to the conference or anything that comes up, please write us to academy@agile21.com. Claudia, the last words are for you. Please feel free to use them.
I'm opening my camera to thank you, the Agile Thinkers Academy and the Experience Agile Week, to host this first Agile Academy. To all the speakers that said yes from the first place. So we as a Women in Tech, we are in a mission to empower more women in the tech field, in the STEM fields, but also we want to give them visibility what they are doing so far in this field, and also to promote new voices and promote the work they are doing and inspire others to be in this field and to achieve more leadership capabilities. And we talk about the Agile mindset, how Agile can help us to achieve these leadership skills, and also how to tackle these issues inside the work environment, and also how we're going to see them in the personal level. So one of the main takeaways is actually that we know what the gaps are. We know that unconscious bias and stereotypes exist, and it takes a long time to just change this mindset also, but it's up to us. It's up to also to raise our voice and to say and have the safety space, as Jamila was saying, Soraya was saying right now, that to have the safe space, or to find our safe space to say what we want and what we don't want, what is suitable for us and what is not suitable for us. So we have many main takeaways from all of these speakers that we heard today. We hope to have our second edition more deep dive into the topics of Agile mindset and how to build the teams, and also to bring the idea how Agile mindset could help us in these safe environments with COVID, with iterations, what we had to change, how to be agile in this situation, in these disruptive times, and how could this help to bridge the gender gap. We have 2 tickets giveaway, and thank you Experience Agile for that. 2 tickets for full attendance in that week, end of this month in Lisbon. It will be online, and we'll have these random to pick between the whole attendances and all the audience that we had during the day, and we'll be announcing tomorrow by email and social media. Please trust us, but it will be really hard to do it just right now, but we'll give it to the audience and we'll announce tomorrow. So thank you for being here, for having these hours with us, and hope that you have you are more richer today with more main takeaways, and thank you for our speakers, also a woman that have a voice and were here to speak up for us and for all. Thank you so much. Thank you all. I really, it was an honor for me, and I really appreciate your effort to put this together. Thank you so much.
Yes, one last word. We will send you also by email the link for the recording of today's session. So please wait in the next 2 days, 1 day, we will send the link with the full recording of this today's session. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a nice evening.